session scheduled. Madam Clerk, would you read the roll, please?
Yes, Ms. Cole?
Here.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
Mr. Lind?
Here.
Mr. Morrissey?
Here.
Mr. Welper?
Here.
Mr. Hart?
Here. Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is proposed.
Approved. We're going to start at 4 o'clock with just a
Suggested
purchasing procedure.
policy change, and Eric Thorson is going to kick that off. Eric, would you kind of start us with what you're proposing?
Eric Thorson, City Engineer. We've had a policy for many years that anything over $25,000 required formal bidding procedures, and there's been some changes in the state code that happened a number of years ago that actually set up some different limits that are evaluated every 2 years for sure. The committee that's set up to do that, which is some contractors and city officials and state officials, have been doing that more frequently every year, at least for a little while. And so I'd like to propose that we follow the state code and have higher thresholds before we go into the formal bidding process. And basically the formal bidding process is where you actually have sealed bids, a public hearing, you publish, and there's a lot of staff time and cost involved in that. And it's been since 1997 since this has been changed. So we've been using this $25,000 threshold at least that long, if not maybe longer. And I passed out some information that kind of gives the bid and quote threshold history, kind of shows you how it's been kind of creeping up a little bit over the years, although it flattens out every once in a while on the amounts. And they have horizontal infrastructure, which is pretty much just the things that engineering does, roads, bridges, culverts, that sort of thing. And then they have the vertical infrastructure, which is more the buildings and structures and appurtenances that go with that. And there are some definitions in the code for those things. Currently, for horizontal infrastructure, the threshold is $70,000, so anything below that could have a less formal process. And then for the vertical infrastructure, the upper limit is $130,000, where you need to have the formal process. And then between $72,000 and $130,000, there's a process called competitive quotes, which is a little less work, and that's in kind of the vertical infrastructure area. And again, there's still savings to that. Below $70,000 on horizontal and below $72,000 on vertical infrastructure really by code don't require too much in documentation, that sort of things, but the council may still want to require that staff try to get at least 1 or 2 quotes, or 3 if you can get them. I know we'll try to do that in engineering because obviously we want to try to get the best price that we can since we're using tax dollars. So these even below the thresholds of 70 and 72,000, you still need to have a written contract and a performance bond, but you don't need the bid bond, the public hearing, the sealed bids, and some of the more formal process. So we'd like council to consider that. We see some definite savings for our staff and for the clerk's staff if we can move these thresholds up a little bit. And one of the big ones for us is every year we go out and get quotes and bids on the cleaning of the levee system, the riprap, and it always was under $25,000 for years. We typically only get one bidder. There aren't many people that do that, but now that's even started to run over $25,000, and so it's an awful lot of work to put together all the formal documentation to get one bid. So anyway, we'd like council to consider that. If you're okay with it, we'll have to work with Michelle to come up with an actual resolution and adjust the policy. There's an existing policy that's out there. And I think some of the other department heads here may want to say something too. It may help them also. We definitely believe it'll help engineering in the clerk's office, but I think some of the other departments will benefit too. So kind of stop there unless you have any questions.
Thanks, Eric. Does anybody else that's here now, Craig or Paul or anybody, want to add to Eric's comments?
I don't have a lot of detail to add. I just would like to lend my support to some modification and making it a little bit less cumbersome to go through the bid process for some of our projects. We don't have the number of projects that Eric has that are of the larger dollar amount, but we do have several projects probably every year that are in between that 25 and 50 range. So it would help us. We would still do everything possible to ensure competitive bids, because that's in all of our best interest and in the taxpayers' best interest. I think it's more a matter of having less, I guess, red tape than trying to get less competition. We need the most competition we possibly can get, so.
Thanks, Paul.
Sure.
Council, do you have any questions of Eric right now, or anybody else, David?
Couple.
Okay, Eric, why don't you go ahead and get back to the microphone?
One, I was curious on Michelle's thoughts on this matter, and a second, what we can do to add transparency to this process, so if we're not gonna go through the formal bid process.
We will go through the
Formal bid process. Well, not the formal bid process. I'm
Well, we're
sorry.
trying to streamline it a little bit, right, based on values.
I would note that the purchasing portion of it would still be there, so it would still go to finance to spend any, amount over $1,000, and.
So we still have
so-
the transparency.
Yes,
in that.
I believe the transparency would still be there. We would just not be holding a official public hearing and paying to post it in the Courier and that sort of stuff.
What are the downsides to this?
Eric Thorson here. I guess we don't really see any. Steve did ask that what amounts, and we were recommending to just go with the state code. So it'll rise and fall as that committee reviews it every year, or at least every other year. That way, we're not coming back to the council every year trying to figure out new numbers. And to the best of my knowledge, anyway, most of the larger cities across the state kind of follow this part of the code. We're just behind that a little bit. Certainly, that's just conservative, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we really feel that we can save some cost and staff time if we can get those thresholds up a little bit anyway.
Michelle, do you have anything to add at this point?
My comments were just that I think we would still go through the finance committee, and I probably need to spend some extra time and make sure departments put their quotes on the pre-auths. Sometimes we're getting kind of loose and not getting those printed on there, but they should do that. In terms of cons, the only thing that I can think of is this, possibly there'd be some vendor from out of town that might not become aware of it if it's not published in the paper. I think the odds of that are probably slim. And we did talk about maybe there would be a way to put that on our website so vendors could still look if there was someone we weren't aware of that we were soliciting a quote from. But that's really all I can think of. I think this will help probably let these projects proceed a little more quickly, and it is nice to get rid of some red tape.
Yeah, and with less paperwork and less staff time, and actually there is a cost savings to doing it this way, less publishing.
Yeah, that's really probably the only saving is the publishing in the paper. When we switch to the pre-auths, we still have to track them, and that brings its own paperwork with it, but it can be done.
There is nothing on council agenda tonight in regarding to this, ladies and gentlemen, but Eric had asked, I think maybe that we could put it on for next week. Eric, is that right? 2 weeks? Oh, that's right, there is no meeting next week, that's right.
Eric Thorson, actually, we need to work with Michelle, so it might be a week or two, or
Okay.
however soon we can bring something formal back. If the council feels, that we should pursue this, we'll do that and come back with some actual resolutions. May have the attorney look at it too, just to make sure the wording is right or something. But-
Steve?
So it may not be in 2 weeks, it
Okay.
might be 3, it just depends how quickly we can get it together.
Eric, and so it's your understanding with other communities that this fluctuates every year? I mean, it seems like that could be a bone of confusion, that year from year, I don't know what the rate's going to be or what the limit's going to be.
I think there's a date, and I'll have to find,
Yeah, it just says of January 1st.
Oh, there it is.
They put it out months.
there's a website where we can actually, and actually, one of our local contractors, Milt Dakovich, serves on that committee, so we can probably get early indications from him too of where they're going. But if you look at the history that we passed out on this bid and quote thing, you can see that it kind of climbed for a while, but then it kind of leveled off and actually went back down a little bit. And I just don't really know all the factors the committee uses when they consider this, but I think they're taking a pretty broad look across the state and with different contractors and officials from across the state, so.
Well, I was thinking that if a contractor deals with a lot of cities, they would know what this is because a lot of them would be the same. But maybe that one contractor in Waterloo, that this is the only place he does it, your staff then would be able to tell him what the current limit is, correct?
Yeah, and that's probably something that could be on the website too.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And we had that conversation this morning, Steve. Actually, we talked about this at the department head meeting, and we decided that we will try to put something on our website to kind of have a bid page on the website so that contractors or individuals can go see what projects are pending for going out to bid, where they are in that, so that it would be another source of information.
I did attend a meeting that was kind of going over bidding processes and that sort of stuff with other city clerks. It was probably a year or two ago. There was at least 30 city clerks in the room, and we were the only ones that did not follow state requirements in there. So I think our contractors, I think there's very few contractors that would bid on that big of a project that don't do business outside of Waterloo. So my guess is we probably confused them more than the other way around.
Further questions? Okay, no, we can't. We've got 4 minutes before we can start the next meeting. So we'll give her 4 minutes, and then we'll talk about parking management services.
Has a presentation for us on the parking management services. Susie?
It is actually not just me. Parking is something in our city that we collaboratively do with several departments. The main 4 departments that deal with parking are myself through the city clerk's office, Sandy Greco in traffic with parking maintenance, Craig with building maintenance, and Michelle with finance. So we thought we'd start with just kind of running through what each of our departments does, so you can kind of understand how the program works, and then get into kind of what some of our options are right now and what some challenges are that we're facing. In the city clerk's office, we deal with the parking administration, which includes space rentals, so the lots and the ramps all have, you can rent them, and some of those are rented on a monthly basis, some are rented quarterly, and some are rented annually. And then also meters in general, obviously, we don't rent out meters, but there are circumstances where contractors are doing some kind of construction or that sort of stuff, so they have to do hood rentals. And so we do all of those through our office and then invoice accordingly. We also do all of the downtown parking enforcement, code enforcement, and the police department kind of do the rest of the city parking enforcement, but we do downtown as far as the meters and the lots and the ramps go, and also the ticket administration, so we input all of those tickets into a database and bill accordingly and collect the revenues. Craig can get up, or Sandy, sorry, can go through what parking maintenance does.
Yikes. Oh, I don't break anything. Okay. I have 2 parking maintenance personnel, and they maintain all the meters. We have installed approximately 298 new meters. We have approximately 60 to go before we have the downtown area completed. This also includes decorative sleeves and bases that we install, which also includes concrete bases and new posts. Annually, we replace batteries in all the meters. We do program them. We answer every malfunctioning meter call, usually immediately. We call our person on the street and they go right over to the meter, if possible. We do biweekly collections, which takes 2 to 3 days. We also maintain the ramps where we go in and we do the janitorial work. We also clean them, we sweep them, we do bird control, and after nights and weekends, sometimes the stairways are very nasty, so we go in and clean all that up. We also maintain the ticket spitters and gates in the west side ramp. As they are down a lot, we have a lot of problems with those. We sweep and clean the parking lots. We also plow snow and salt and sand the ramps and lots. The majority of my budget is personnel. If you'd like to know, okay, our parking lots consist of, on the east side, Lot 2 is East 6th between Sycamore and Lafayette. Lot 4 is the 600 block of Lafayette. Lot 6 was the East 3rd Lafayette Street one that we just took everything out of for John Roof. Lot 8 is a 100 block of East Park Avenue. We do the City Hall lot, East 6th and Franklin along the tracks behind the 486th Street, the building. We do Carnegie lot, that's behind the old library. We do the corner of West 4th and Franklin Streets, which is over by the credit union. On the west side, we have Lot 1, which is West 4th between Cedar and Commercial Streets. Lot 3 is West 3rd Street next to the library. Lot 5 is a 400 block of Commercial Street across from the library. Lot 7 is corner of West 3rd and Commercial Street. Lot 9 is the lot next to Midwest Bank off of West 3rd Street. Lot 11 is the public market lot. We used to have Lot 15, but that's where the bank is now at the corner of West 6th and Jefferson. And we have Lot 17, which is under the 218 overpass. We have 4 ramps, which East 5th, East Park Avenue, West 5th, and the Commercial Street or Sullivan Center ramp. We also do Center for the Arts lot, and we help with Young Arena also, their parking lot.
Craig Clark, building official. So my portion is kind of two-sided here. The first one is we do assist Sandy from time to time in the maintenance of the ramps if she has something that maybe they can't get to or is a little more in our expertise. We'll go help on certain things there. But the majority of our work is done with the capital improvement of the ramps. And so we had AECom do a study in 2010 of 2 of our ramps. I would say the 2 are in fairly decent shape right now. And over the last few years, and I say few, I mean about 10, we have put more money into those 2. And now we have 2 more, which I'm going to call the Courier on the East 5th, or on the East 5th ramp, and then also the East 5th ramp that's across from the Brown Bottle and the Russell Lamson building, kind of kitty corner from that one.
West Fifth.
West Fifth, sorry, yep. So those 2 are the ones that we are concentrating on right now. There is a lot of work to be done. There's a little bit of structural repair actually that'll be coming July 7th for going out for bid for that. We had some deterioration over the winter, and so we will be doing some structural repair to that ramp here shortly. Then the AECom did their study in 2010, and we kind of phased this over a 5-year plan with no really time frame. We just made it a 5-year plan because that's what we felt would maybe be acceptable for funding and that kind of situation. So the 5-year is more 5 different maybe categories than anything. The first ones we wanted to concentrate on were drainage and lighting for the ramps. One thing, we would like to switch them all to LED lighting, and it makes it more efficient for utilities, plus it gives off a nicer light than we currently have. The drainage, in all our ramps, it seems like we have a lot of issues with the drainage getting plugged during the winter, frozen, breaking, just a lot of different issues. So we're putting all new plastic pipe in instead of the old cast that corrodes over time. The second one is to go through the buildings more or less, and the bumpers, the joints, sealing the beams, and all this kind of stuff that needs to be done. These ramps, the last major renovations, I believe, was done in 77 and 78 on these 2 ramps. They were both built in 54 and 55. And it's just every so often you need to do some larger maintenance to them. There's some tuck pointing that needs to be done, just sealing and all those type of things. Then the third part of that would be trying to get the public restrooms and those redone and reopened. Currently, the public restrooms are in poor shape and we need to be gutted and redone. This 5-year plan we had, I did round it up just a touch. It was a touch under 3 million, but it's about a $3 million expense to do that. There is nothing cosmetic really in this. You know, everybody's like, oh, after $3 million, we should have really nice ramps. Well, they're not going to look really any different. It's more the things people don't notice is what this would do. I mean, most people don't notice a nice new white pipe in there, so. Yeah, some people do, but just general maintenance is what a big part of this whole thing is. One of the things, can you flip to the next slide? The biggest thing that we came out of with this study and with just looking at is making sure the drains are cleaned, we get it swept and sweep in the spring, get it washed, the weekly sweeping, the joint sealing, and the yearly inspections by a qualified in person. These are, I think, the big points that we're missing at this point and would help for the future lasting of these buildings.
Okay, we thought we'd quickly run through the budgets, because we get asked a lot of questions about how we pay for parking and doesn't parking pay for parking and all kinds of things like that. So parking administration and that activity, we call it an activity or an organization set in our budget, is operated by Susie's department. Just to summarize, the ramp revenue is, and this is the fiscal 15 budgets that we're just going into. We're budgeting ramp revenue at $224,000, meter and lots at $185,000, and fines at $135,000. And that, surprisingly, we thought we would see that fine revenue come down a little bit this year, and we're really not. So hopefully it will maintain at that $135,000 level. As Susie talked about what her staff does, these are the expenses related to that. Her personnel and contractual, she also manages we outsource some of the cashiering operations at the West Fifth ramp and provide some security, things like that that are all included in there. And the expenses are the $137,608 for that activity. The parking maintenance budget is not a revenue budget, as you can tell. We've got miscellaneous in there of $500, and that's simply for damage claims and sale of scrap is all the revenue that goes to the maintenance activity, and that is operated by Sandy's department. And here are the expenses for Sandy's department: $200,000 in personnel, $50,000 contractual, and $20,000 in commodities. So the net to our general fund is $133,308. That's what it's projected to be for fiscal 15. So that $133,000 is being used to pay for police and fire, however you want to look at it, any other general fund activity. But that's not all of our costs for parking. I summarized here what we have spent in bond money over the last 10 years on our ramps. It's a total of $3.6 million, just under, and that does not include the interest. That's maybe another 50%. And we also have spent about $200,000 on new parking meters in the last 10 years. So you're looking at total expenses of close to $6 million that have been levied and paid for out of the debt service levy in addition to the operating. So parking, I mean, a lot of people say it makes money because you saw that $133,000, but I think our annual debt service is more than absorbing the $133,000. It's just kind of an anomaly in how governmental taxes are allowed to work, that we leave the general fund there and we levy for this in the debt service fund. So, our group has discussed several options. You know, there's a lot of conversation about parking and how we should do our parking operations. We think the main options are to hire an outside firm to do parking management. And we can do all different levels of service. Those are some of the things that'll have to be considered. You want to turn over everything, and they will collect for the tickets and the meters and do the ramps and clean the ramps, all of it, or some hybrid combination of those things. Another option would be to attempt to sell all the parking. But what's hard to remember about that is it isn't just the ramps, then we've also got all these lots, and you've got your meters on street. So there are lots of things to consider. We don't know if there's a buyer for all of it. Probably if we were going to sell it, we'd want to sell all of it. But so that would be something you'd want to consider. And another alternative might be to increase our capital improvements funding or our bonds, and or increase staffing level if your goal is to improve the customer service that we're providing, which obviously would result in additional operating expenses. Those are three broad categories of options. There are probably zillions of smaller options between there. And I'm not sure, Susie, do you each want to talk about your own staffing?
I think I'll
that
just
would
talk
work
about
better.
it in general.
Could you, Michelle, wait, please. Could you go back, and maybe you're going to address this, but of those three options, did your committees come up with a preference? Or
We
is that
did
coming-
not at this time. I mean, I think we may have some inklings that we think might work better, but I think our mission today was to try to understand what mayor and council wants. What are your goals for this? And to give us some direction, and maybe before we try to figure out what we can afford.
Okay, thanks.
And the reason we put a staffing slide in here with those options is because obviously, doing any of those options essentially will affect staffing, so we wanted to be clear on what we had for staffing that was designated by and paid for by the parking revenue. And this is what we currently have. I think as a group, we've talked about, just trying to find out what options there are out there. As Michelle mentioned, that the parking management comes in every shape and size is what we're kind of figuring out. You can get it from a full-blown management contract where they 100% run it to, just helping utilize them with our own employees, that sort of stuff. Obviously, a parking management company has access to things we do not, technology and software systems and training systems that we don't have because we have such a small scale parking system right now. And I guess we kind of want to reiterate that by going to any of those things, it definitely does not mean right off the bat that we're laying people off. We don't want to spread fear by just having this conversation. We've seen that other cities have went to parking management and found ways to either work with that parking management for the cities to keep the staff, and or the staff can move over to those other companies. So there's definitely options there. We're not, talking about eliminating all of our staff at this point. But like Michelle said, we kind of just want some direction from you guys, whether you would like us to go out for RFP for a parking management company to see what's out there and what they can offer and what they can give us, or if you're liking things the way they are, if you'd like us just to do this internally by increasing our staffing level and, bumping up our customer service and cleaning and that sort of stuff. Doubtful that that's the option you're wanting, is just to increase staff, because we're only limited by what we can do without some of the other things that the other companies have to offer. But we just need some direction from you guys as to what you want, and then we'll move forward.
Good job, guys, all of you. Thanks. I know that you put some time into this. Much needed. So, council, it's your turn to just ask questions or offer comments.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Welker.
I guess I've probably been the most vocal person here in regards to not charging for parking in so many cases where we probably should. I think the people in Waterloo are rather spoiled. They have been gotten by quite easy on parking compared to other communities. Regardless where I go, it seems like I have to pay for parking. Brian Vanderwall was here two, 3 months ago, and I asked the question to him in regards to charging for parking in different places, and he said, "You're not ready for that yet. It's too soon." So he was not in favor of charging for all the different places that I was recommending charging parking for. So that was his take on it.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Cole?
one of the consistent complaints that I get is that our parking ramps
Building manager.
are in poor condition, and we don't have the money to fix them. And so I would definitely support looking at a parking management system, outsourcing.
And I think, and I won't speak for the entire committee, but we've had a couple of meetings on this issue, and I think all would like to see that. Part of the problems with going to a full-blown management situation with Republic Parking or someone like that is they expect all of those things to be done before they take it over. It's not like you give it to them the way it is, and they say, "Thank you very much, we'll pay for all of these repairs." They want all the repairs done first. So, so there is some issue with that, but I think that would probably get vetted in an RFP process.
And Mr. Mayor, I guess when this had first come up, I had looked it up on different websites, and one of the things that struck me was the cost increase if there was a parking management, if it was outsourced, and so I definitely am opposed to any outsourcing of parking in Waterloo.
Anybody else want to weigh in?
Mr. Mayor, if I could ask, who was on the committee, just out of curiosity?
Greg, and you just heard from
Okay.
Greg and Michelle and Sandy and
And I had talked to some of council's counterparts down in Cedar Rapids, where I know Republic has been, I think, for a few years now, and I haven't talked to them lately, but last time I talked to them, they seem to be pleased with the end product, and I haven't heard any rumblings down there with the public. It does seem to me, looking at the three options, that probably the third one is probably the least logical, I think. And so I think taking a look at number one warrants a good look, and I don't have any idea about selling them off. I mean, if we could sell them off, I think that'd be great, but I'm not sure that, is that a typical situation? I guess I'm not aware of that, where a city actually sells off their parking facilities. Yeah. But I do think the management group, I think that's done in a number of places around the country, and I think that, yeah, we should take a look at that. I understand that about them not wanting to, I think with the Main Street group, had some conversations that Republic, for example, would like everything fixed up first, and it seems to me, Michelle, that there would be a way to, make that part of the proposal, that we could do that and then repay that through the income from those folks for some specified period of time, because, yeah, otherwise I don't see any way we're probably going to be able to get it done. So, yeah, but I'd be supportive of that.
And I, like you, Steve, I've talked to the folks I know in Cedar Rapids, and they are happy with Republic. And what they did down there, but for those who don't already know it, they formed their own parking authority, so that it's really not handled by by the city. It's handled by this parking authority. And I'm not familiar with all of the legal ramifications as to how that's done and all of the authority that they have and don't have, but they are. I talked to the mayor and two council people, and both of them are fairly happy with the way that's working down there. Steve, or Dave?
So it sounds like we don't currently make money with the ramps at all, based on all the maintenance and deferred maintenance and what we've spent to date, right?
Our general fund does have a net profit.
General
but
fund, but when you look at
overall, no,
general
with the
obligation
capital
bonds,
money that
capital
needs to be spent,
improvements.
no.
Okay, so if we were to sell these, I mean, to even make it viable, parking rates would have to go way, way up just to pay for the expense on that from a business standpoint. So today, it sounds like we're, well, just like a lot of things, we're subsidizing parking in a lot of ways, and unfortunately or fortunately, these are in TIF districts, so the people that don't live in TIF districts are funding even more of it, which is unfortunate as well. But we're still, no matter what we do, we still have a lot of work to do to clean them up, make them structurally sound. So regardless, I don't know where we're gonna come up with the funding to even do that. So that's a concern as well, because it seems like we're pretty high already in our capacity to bond.
Would council like to see, we're not going to take a vote, but would there be any opposition to us just taking a look at getting an RFP from a parking management company?
I would support that.
Yeah.
No, I don't want it.
Okay.
Would this be a full-blown, get several,
I think so,
And-
yeah. Wouldn't we, Michelle or Craig, or Craig, you'd probably run that, or whoever, but I would think that we would want to get RFPs from all the companies that would want to submit one.
And our committee talked about requesting different options for different levels of service to help us analyze what we thought would make the most sense for Waterloo.
Yeah.
Because we don't know until we really put the RFPs out there what we can make work.
do those companies want all or nothing? Or
We
will
don't
they-
think so. We think people will bid varying levels of service, and so that's what we want to ask. Tell us what the pricing would be if you did take everything, what would be the pricing if you only did certain parts and we kept the ticketing, for example. We just wanted to explore what would be available to us.
Mr.
Mayor,
Hart?
just a quick question in regards to the ramp. So right now, the parking is operating at a net, but when we take in the amount of repairs that we have to do over the course of time, we're at a deficit, possibly, or however you want to phrase it. So from what I'm hearing, that if we work with a company, possibility of working with a company, we'd be responsible for some types of improvements. And then once we have those improvements, then a company could come in and take over that portion of us and give us a certain amount from that, right?
Yes, but what they would require up front, at least from one proposal we have, is it isn't necessarily the whole $3 million that has to be done up front based on one proposal we saw. So again, that's going to depend on whatever the person that bids says they can work with or can't work with or don't want to work with. So those are all question marks in the committee's mind right now that until we get some proposals back, we don't really know what it will require.
So I was just wondering, Councilman Cole's comments about one of the main complaints probably that all of us hear is about the condition of the ramp. So if we did fix them up, we wouldn't have as many capital concerns, and we'd be having more of a net profit if we did it ourselves, which we'll have to do in some part based upon whatever agreement we make with a particular company, maybe.
It's likely, yeah.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Typically, does a company like that, we fix the ramps up and everything's tip-top shape. Do they then do the maintenance and fix the gates, and is it their responsibility, or are we still kind of stuck with that?
Again, I think that's another option that we're not sure which will be the most beneficial to Waterloo. I think we're going to request and probably get options of both. One where they would take it over, one where they would not. And the city would continue to make the capital
Do we
improvements.
get any revenue from companies like this?
Yes.
Does like Republic give you something? Do they?
They do in Cedar Rapids. Yeah.
They might, and I don't know how comparable we are with Cedar Rapids. Cedar Rapids has probably just gotten some parking facilities paid for with federal flood money that we probably won't have that option right now. So how there's cash flows may or may not work the same way for Waterloo right now. But until we are able to send RFPs and really get some proposals back, we're not sure what the bottom line to Waterloo will be. It's possible that we could net something, but then council would also have to be willing to allow the rates to go up high enough for that to happen. Mr. Jones made a good point that probably rates would have to go up to do, if you really want improved customer service and improved facilities, that's going to take investment somehow, whether it's from a private management company or whether it's from city staff. So those are all the things that we want to explore by sending out an RFP, and
Who would write
we don't have the answers yet.
Who would write it?
The committee.
Who would do it?
Well, we have some ideas. It'll be a group effort with some people that, we will probably get some information from people that do that for a living, and then our committee will work on it.
Mayor, or Michelle? I remember a conversation with one of the people from Republic in regards to parking, and he said there's no such thing as free parking. And so we're kind of going back to what I've been saying about start charging parking at Center for the Arts and Young Arena and whatnot. If we do something like Republic, then we're going to start charging on those lots, which is what Brian Vanderwall says it's too early to be doing that. Don't we have like...
I'm not sure when that would start, even with Republic, because I think to do that in any of those lots would take some capital investment. And so that would all be part of the proposal that, I don't know if they would tell us you have to do it on day one, or if, I think there will be probably a possibility, and I'm making this up out of the air, but I think there's a possibility it could be a 5-year phase-in before you add all the new facilities, because in order to charge for parking, there has to be ways, to prevent people from going in and parking for free. So that would take a certain amount of capital investment as well.
Now, don't we have roughly 900 parking stalls compared to 1,600 in Cedar Rapids or something like that? Does that sound familiar?
Anybody?
I think they're going to want to start charging.
Craig is saying yes very quietly, and Sandy's looking. So.
Are you charging ramps, or are you charging?
I think they were just talking about parking stalls, and I don't know why those numbers kind of stick with me. But
900 sounds familiar to me for Waterloo. I have no idea about Cedar Rapids.
We're getting close. We've got another meeting supposed to start like in a minute. Mr. Hart has one final question. He shut Mr. Wilper off.
That's fine.
Let's keep it moving. Mr. Hart, do you have
Yeah,
any
just
questions? Please.
one quick question. The main challenge with our parking ramps is the fact of our crumbling infrastructure in those ramps. So that's the main crux of the matter, right?
And
The
cleanliness and how they look.
What condition,
Yeah.
those types of things.
Maintenance, but there's the big infrastructure piece. But I'm also curious about how many spaces we have leased and what their appetite is for better service over paying more.
Again, did you finish your question, Mr. Hart?
We can move on.
Okay. What we're going to do, council, without objection, other than Mr. Morrissey at this point, we're going to go ahead and the committee will move forward with RSPs and we'll see what we get back, and we'll have more conversation and more ability to make up our mind as to how we proceed.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, committee.
Was that Building and Grounds Committee to order? Will the clerk please read the roll?
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mr. Morrissey?
Here.
Mr. Schmidt?
Here. Motion to approve the agenda is proposed.
Second.
All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. We have an agenda.
Mr. Chairman, we have one item of business there, and that's the authorization to proceed with the Waterloo Public Library restroom renovation.
Second.
A motion and second to authorize to proceed with the public restroom at the library. Any discussion? There's one question. This was for compliance, right? Update and compliance, ADA compliance?
Craig Clark, building official. It is for both. It is very aged in the first floor restrooms, so we are going to more or less take the ceramic tile off, new fixtures, change how you come in a little bit, and then reconfigure the stalls for ADA compliance, yes. And then we will be adding one family restroom on the side of that. So we will be adding one new restroom for a family restroom.
Craig, do you have any kind of a guesstimate on what kind of money we're talking about?
About 100,000.
100,000 for two restrooms?
The two restrooms in the new ADA restroom, yes.
Where's that money coming from?
out of bond money.
Thank you.
Additional discussion? Seeing none, those in favor of proceeding with the restroom project, vote aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
We have a motion and second to adjourn. Those in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Aye, we are adjourned.
Roll, please.
Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
Mr. Hart?
Here.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We have an agenda. If somebody'd like to take some of that business.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Move that we approve for the Community Development Board, Doreen Mingo and Brooke Trent. Expiration dates, 7/1/17. They're both new appointments. For the Metropolitan Transit Authority Board, I move that we approve Penny Drew, Barb Prather, Jack Good, Greg Zars, Keela McDonald, and all of those with expiration dates of June 30th, 2017. You want me to just take those to start off or keep going?
Whatever you'd like to do.
All right, for the Library Board of Trustees, move that we approve Jan Han with a expiration date of 6/30/20. For the Waterloo Convention and Visitors Bureau, Sherman Wise and Ms. Jane Gordon with expiration date 6/30/2017. Those are new appointments.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on those appointments. Any questions or comments? I guess the only question I had is on the MTA. I thought we had kind of talked about trying to get it to where we have incremental expiration dates, for lack of a better term. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 folks, all the same expiration date.
It's a large board.
Mhm.
Even there are other board members that do incrementally fall off. There was a situation where there was, Mark actually asked me, I think, there was at least one, I think two, that he was asking to hold over, to hold longer than the normal 2 terms, and I denied that and asked him to put new people on. So I think there still is that staggering falling off because they have such a large board.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Those motions are approved.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and proper second to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
Clerk, would you read the roll, please?
Mr. Welper?
Here.
Mr. Hart?
Here.
Ms. Cole?
Here.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
Mr. Lind?
Here.
Mr. Morrissey?
Here.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the agenda. Any questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We have 2 requests today, and I think we probably both can be taken at the same time, if someone would like to take them both.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Hart?
Number 1, I move that we approve the request from Director of Safety Services to begin the civil service process for police captain and make appointment. And number 2 is a request from the Director of Safety Services to begin the civil service process for police lieutenant and make an appointment subject to police captain appointment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the 2 requests. The chief is here, yes. Dan, go ahead if you'd like to explain.
This request is occurring because of the retirement of Captain Pillack. These are budgeted requests. Funds are budgeted for next year. There have been many changes in the police department in the past 4+ years. This is significant for me in that I have 4 years or less left with the Waterloo Police Department. And I feel that many good things have happened with this police department in regard to our successes. We've had our ups and downs, but we've had many successes. I think the employees have been held to a level of accountability that has not been seen in decades, and they're asking for even more accountability. I have a philosophy that I express to the officers and even the firefighters often is and when I talk about supervisors, I'm talking about sergeants. When I talk about managers, I talk about lieutenants, captains, and myself. And I often tell the supervisors and managers that I don't need them to supervise and manage people. I need them to supervise and manage situations because the employees are empowered. We should be hiring employees that are wise enough and good enough to go out there and know what they need to do, but we need to handle situations, and a situation would be a homicide or a shooting or budget issues, the budget challenges we're facing now. A situation would be transforming our sworn personnel in the lab to civilian personnel as we move forward. As a matter of fact, that's something I will task the administrative captain with, the next person that I will promote to captain. We're in a mode right now where we've had so many successes, I need to figure out a way to make them stick. So I need competent and capable supervisors and managers to make them stick. So all I'm asking is to replace a captain that I have lost, and that would be a lieutenant would get promoted to a captain, then we would promote a sergeant to lieutenant, and we would promote an officer to sergeant. And then long after I'm gone, hopefully the wisdom in my promotions will stick with this city for decades. So I'm simply asking to replace our captain we have had retire and then go right down the line with the other promotions.
Any questions for Mr. Trelka?
Mr. Chair, question. The annual salary, that's as of July 1st, that includes the raise that's coming for everybody, right?
Yes.
That's the new salary?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And just a comment, we are compensating well, and I noticed the benefits are about 55% of salary, which is very good. So I assume we're going to get good people for these positions with that kind of salary and benefits.
It's going to be a difficult job for me to promote because of the quality of candidates I'm going to have to choose from. And the pay for our captains is not competitive with the pay for captains throughout the state. I'll just put that out there. We pay our captains poorly, but we've got some darn good people that are willing to step up to the plate.
Anyone else? Steve?
And this is really a question more for Mr. Mayor than for Mr. Trelka. It just reminded me as we're looking at these salaries and benefits, can I ask where the conversation's at on the Metro collaboration conversation that you and Mayor Cruz are having?
I didn't realize that had anything to do with compensation, Steve, but
Well,
I mean, you're talking about a joint meeting with Cedar Falls City Council.
Right.
Actually, I'm always saying we just did, but we just did have that conversation last week, John and I, with Randy Pilkington. Randy authored a memo that will be coming out, hopefully, maybe even this week, about all of the things that we are doing now, and we're going to meet to try to figure out what our goals will be for a joint session. We are shooting for probably late summer for a joint session.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, put a roll call, please.
Mr. Walper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Motion to adjourn.
That motion passes. We have a motion for adjournment.
Second.
And a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Finance Committee meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please read the roll?
Yes, Ms. Cole?
Here.
Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Motion to approve the agenda is proposed, and also approval of the minutes of June 16th, 2014.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Have we discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, vote by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Madam Chairperson, I'd be delighted to take that one travel request.
Thank you.
We have Marty Freshwater, Battalion Chief, and Daryl Hartema, mechanic, who deliver the engine 306 for repairs to Wyingwiga, Wisconsin, on July the 11th, 2014, at a cost not to exceed $370.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion?
If I could just ask a real quick question. Are we, Chief, are we concerned about that vehicle making it? Is that going in for body work or mechanical work? Or
Yes.
do we send along a mechanic?
Dan Trucca, Director of Safety Services, it's body work. That vehicle was rear-ended at one time. Temporary repairs were done. Now we got a check from the insurance company. They're taking it to the factory to get insurance work done.
Okay. And I mean, do we need to be sending a battalion chief to basically lose a day to take a vehicle to Wisconsin? I mean, couldn't we have somebody on their day off, pay them, or get a volunteer? I mean, that just seems, I understand the $370, but I'm thinking about 2 employees being out of the fold. You know, we just got done hearing how we are short-staffed on firefighters. Now we're sending 2 of them off to deliver a truck to Wisconsin.
I don't know if that's going to be his day off or not, but he's a salaried employee, and it's a good-sized rig, so 2 guys is the safest way to get it up there.
Okay, all right, thanks.
I will just clarify that Daryl is not a firefighter. He's a mechanic. So there's only one firefighter going.
Gotcha, okay, thank you.
All in favor, vote by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Those items pass.
Madam Chairperson, I'd like to take the pre-authorizations,
Thank
if
you.
that's okay. And the first is for the airport in the amount of $3,564 for website, including design, hosting, and 12 months of updates. Building maintenance in the amount of $3,200 for to run Stormline to Alley. Did I read that right? Run Stormline to Alley on 300 West 3rd. Leisure services in the amount of $1,950 for installation of new plant material and wood chips in the new retaining wall landscape beds at Gates Park Pro Shop. Planning in the amount of $7,500 for additional water discontinuations associated with the demo of 1518 West 4th Street. Traffic operations in the amount of $11,732.87, plus $125 shipping and handling for sheeting, cuttable film, and application tape for numerous signs. Traffic operations in the amount of $1,022.80 for 40 fuse holders, and waste management services in the amount of $5,920.20, plus $750 shipping and handling for KSB 250 horsepower motor rewind for RWW pump number 5.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have discussion? Yes, sir.
I've got a couple questions. First, for planning, that $7,500 on 1518 West 4th Street. Could you tell us a little something about that?
Noel Anderson, Community Planning Development Director. As part of the demolition of 1518 West 4th Street, which is a dilapidated building, it was pretty common in some of the older areas. There was several water and sewer lines connected to other houses that came through that lot, so they were shared connections. We were not aware of that when we first set that up. After the demolition occurred, of course, then the neighbors called and said their water and sewer lines were not working, so we had to have them go back in there and basically reconnect them.
Thank you. And then for traffic, if Sandy's here, I'd like to ask the $11,732.87. Would you tell us a little something about that?
Sandy Greco, Superintendent of Traffic Operations. We are in the process of starting to fabricate our own signs. We have the equipment set up now, the software, and all the sign blanks bought. And so we need the sheeting and all this to do the cutting and see if take our own signs.
Can you give me an idea, about how many signs we're going to get for this, just shy of $12,000? I mean, is it a bunch or?
A lot. Yeah, it's a lot because we're doing yellow, white, black, so we'll be doing all the specialized signs. We can do our street name signs and all that now, so we won't have to go out. The only time we will go out usually in order is if we're doing a mass amount, like, say, 200 no parking signs or something. We won't do that in-house, but all the other ones we will.
Didn't we, when we approved this, kind of figure we were going to save money doing our own?
We will, yes.
Yeah. Okay, all right, thank you.
Anything else, gentlemen? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Those items pass. I move that we pay the bills this week, and they are $3,300,159.47. 3,300,159.47.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, vote by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Motion adjourned.
Second. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. We got a nice full house tonight. Lots of important issues. This is the regular meeting session of the Waterloo City Council this Monday, June 23rd. So again, welcome to all of you that are in session tonight and to those that might be watching us on our public access television. Madam Clerk, would you start us by reading the roll, please?
Certainly. Ms. Cole? Here. Mr. Jones? Here. Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
Mr. Lind?
Here.
Mr. Morrissey?
Here.
Mr. Welper?
Here.
Mr. Hart?
Here.
Very good, thank you. If you would all join me, please, in standing for just a moment of prayer or silent reflection. Thank you very much. Our Pledge of Allegiance tonight is going to be led by Cheryl McGovern, our Library Director. Cheryl? Cheryl here.
Nope.
Cheryl is not here. I'll lead the pledge tonight. If you would all please join me. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. You may be seated.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Hart?
I move that we approve the agenda as proposed and also the minutes of June 16th, regular session.
Second.
Council, do you have any questions or comments regarding the agenda or the minutes? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we receive, place on file, and approve the consent agenda, items 1A through B 37. Also, with the approval of the consent agenda, I move that we make our bills payment, which will be read by our finance chair.
The bills this week are $3,300,159.47, 3,300,159.47.
Second.
Council, do you have any comments or questions regarding the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Lim?
I have one question.
Okay.
1A18, probably for Michelle. That transfer from a TIF district, cash from a TIF district, to pay, a bill. Why can't we transfer cash from a TIF district for, like, police and fire operations? I mean, this doesn't seem like this is for a service. couldn't we say there's X amount of police and fire in this TIF district, bill the TIF district and being reimbursed for the
Michelle
general
Weidner,
fund?
Chief Financial Officer. I don't think those types of services are covered under Chapter 403 of the Iowa Code. This $10,000, while it's for a service, it's directly for marketing properties within that TIF district, and that's why it's allowable, because economic development purposes are what are stated in the code that you can use the TIF increment for. So general city services would not qualify.
Can we verify that for sure, that we can't pay police and fire out of a TIF? Or do you know for sure?
Yeah, I think, I don't know if Chris wants to jump into that, but I think we're pretty sure. I think there would be 947 cities across Iowa that would be doing that if we could. So,
And I will kind of verify, Tom, for example, we use part of Noel's salary out of TIF districts because Noel does direct marketing, et cetera, economic development in those TIF districts. General salaries cannot be paid out of TIF districts for general personnel. There has to be a direct relationship with economic development in the TIF districts in order for that revenue generated to be eligible to be used for salaries.
Okay. Thank you.
Very good question, though. Are there any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, if I
Mr. Schmidt.
could, under the liquor license, the new one on legs, I assume that one has been properly vetted?
Well, I would assume so also, but which one is it?
It's item number
Legs,
5.
212
yeah,
East 4th
212
Street.
East 4th.
Let's ask Planning and Zoning and Director Trelka. I mean, they don't get on the agenda without
It's
being
been signed
vetted,
off
but,
by planning and zoning and police.
okay. If it hasn't, please stand by both of you, but I'm assuming it has. Okay. Further questions regarding the consent agenda? So, roll call vote, Madam Clerk, please.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Thank you.
Very good. We have several recognitions tonight from the consent agenda that I won't forget, Councilman Schmidt, tonight. So, first of all, I know Brian Foster is here. Brian is way in the back. Just stand up and wave. Brian, we'll get your picture on the television. Brian has accepted the position of forestry specialist with our Leisure Services Division, and with the upcoming ash borer issue and just all of our trees and everything that we have going on, we're needing somebody to coordinate all of that and make sure that we stay on top of that, and that's going to be Brian that's going to take care of all that. So Brian, thank you for coming to the city. Thank you for saying yes, and we're looking forward to a long and prosperous relationship. So thank you very much. Very good. We have several new appointments to our boards and commissions tonight, and I know a couple of people are here. Doreen Mingo, I didn't see Doreen come in. I don't believe, Doreen, are you here? No, but Doreen is a new appointment to our Community Development Board, and Brooke Trent, who is here. Brooke, if you would just stand up. Brooke is also a new appointment to our Community Development Board, an incredibly important board in the city. Anytime people step forward and volunteer of their time and their services to our boards and commissions, we are much appreciative because it does take time and it takes a commitment to do those. So, Brooke, thank you for volunteering. You're going to get lots of exposure to what goes on in the community through that development, or through that board. So, thank you very much. Very good. Penny Drew, I think Penny is here. Penny, are you here? Yeah, Penny. Okay, Penny is a new appointment to the Met Transit Authority Board. Not a direct city board, but certainly very closely tied to the Metropolitan Transit Authority. So Penny, thank you very much for saying yes, and I know Mark's going to appreciate your involvement with that board. So thank you very much for stepping up and giving of your time. We have Barb Prather and Jack Good also, who are new members of the Met Board. I don't think either one of them are here either. I didn't see either one of them, but if we got Penny and Barb and Jack are all new appointments to our Metropolitan Transit Board. Thank all of them very much. So let's for that. Okay. Some reappointments, just to mention their names so everybody knows they are volunteering. Greg Zars, Akila McDonald, Jan Hahn are all reappointments 2 to the Met Board, 1 to the Library Board. Sherman Wise and Miss Jane Gordon are new appointments to the Waterloo Convention and Visitors Bureau. So again, lots of folks being appointed tonight to boards and commissions, and lots of appreciation from the city for all of you folks. And for those of you that are here that I just recognized, please, if you would like to stay, you're welcome to. If not, don't feel like you're going to offend anybody. If you get up and leave, that's also just fine. So thank you guys very much, and we'll go ahead and continue on with the meeting. Item number 2, please.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Schmidt.
Item number 2, I'd like to make a motion to receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing, and that's a request by the City of Waterloo to vacate the 20-foot platted alley generally located adjacent to 316, 318 West 3rd Street, subject to the retention of a utility easement over, under, and upon the entire area to be vacated.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries, and that hearing is now open. Madam Clerk, are there any written objections on file, or are there any objections on file to item number 2?
There were none.
There are no objections to item number 2. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak either for or against vacating the platted alley on 316, 318 West 3rd Street? A second time?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion then to close the hearing and receive and file the recommendation of approval of Planning, Programming, and Zoning Commission.
Second.
Council, do you have any questions or comments regarding this item?
Mr. Mayor?
Jones?
I was just curious about, there's no screening requirements, and it looks like it practically goes right up to the neighboring building, is that right?
Is that a question or a statement?
It's a question. It does
Okay.
go up right to the neighboring
Mr.
building,
Anderson, would
right?
you speak to Mr. Jones's question, please, or concerns?
Noel Anderson, Community Planning Development Director, and I forget what was in the packet provided to you. That's the area where they're building the parking lot. There is a landscaped area with trees that would go along that building side as part of the buffer area from that parking lot being built next to the Sportsplex.
Okay. Any further questions?
I guess those are trees.
Madam Clerk, it's a roll call. No, I'm sorry. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to receive, file, consider, and pass for the first time an ordinance vacating the 20-foot platted alley generally located adjacent to 316, 318 West 3rd Street, subject to the retention of utility easement over, under, and upon the entire area to be vacated.
Second.
Madam Clerk, that is a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Before we, Mr. Schmidt, just if you don't mind, Noel, this is the parking lot area for the Sportsplex and for that eastern end, is that correct? Does this need to move forward in order for construction to keep going?
Noel Anderson, Community Planning Development Director. I believe that they are waiting for this to begin construction.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Schmidt?
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
Madam Clerk, it's a roll call vote.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Very good, the motion carries. Thank you, Council.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to consider and pass it a second and third time and adopt the ordinance.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Very good, thank you. Motion carries. Item number 3, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Cole.
I move we receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing on the rezone request from Robeson Homes, Inc. of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, to rezone approximately 6.47 acres of land located just east of Morning Dove Drive from R3 Multiple Residence District and Site Plan Amendment to the R3RP Planned Multiple Residence District for 148 new dwelling units located on 20.63 acres of land generally located east of Morning Dove Drive.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries, and the hearing is now open. Madam Clerk, are there any written objections on file?
There are written objections on file in the city clerk's office.
We do have written objections on file on this item, ladies and gentlemen, and we also have 2 people that have called in and asked to speak to this issue. So I'm going to open the microphone. The hearing is now open. I will open the microphone. I know Mr. Ron Bockenstedt and Mr. Larry Oldtroge have both called and asked to have time at the microphone. So Mr. Bockenstedt has asked for an extension of the 5 minutes should he go over, and I have granted that. We're going to kind of keep time, but we'll see where we go here. And he also has a presentation for us, I believe. So
Yes, I do. Is this on?
it is, sir.
Okay.
And, yeah.
First of all, I'd say good evening to the mayor and the council. And I would introduce myself. I'm Ron Bockenstedt. I live at 1234 Hummingbird Circle. I'm representing myself and the people in the Crossroads subdivision. So rather than having 20 people get up here, I'm going to try to do it more simply. The reason for being here tonight is we're concerned about the proposed Prairie Meadows Estate traffic flow through the Crossroads subdivision in its current 2 outlets. One being Sarah Drive that goes between Hy-Vee and Walmart, and the other one being Southtown Drive, which goes by Home Depot. I did give each of you a handout. Did everybody get that? I want to just review a little bit what's in there. Most of us in the subdivision didn't know about this being done until we seen this Courier article. Even the people that are up there, the ones that got it, probably only lived there from 2 to 6 months and had no idea on what was going on. The other thing that I've done is I've highlighted for the ease of the council and the mayor, the yellow is our subdivision and the blue is the new subdivision. In addition to that, we did do a petition, and I have a petition attached along with a traffic survey that I've done, along with some pictures of our roads up there with all the traffic that's going through.
You received the petition, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Okay, so the petition has been received in his own file. Thank you.
Yeah, I did bring that in this afternoon. So really, I want to commend your staff here, Mayor. I've been working with Noel and Eric and Adrian and also the traffic people with Sandy. They're just remarkable people.
Thank you.
They really, Susie Shares and her staff have done a good job and been very helpful in preparing this tonight. So according to the Community Planning and Zone Development Department, I got a plat, the original plat of this, and there was 140 lots in that original plat. Now, after much that's going on, there's 101 parcels in that plat. Currently, my wife and I counted the other day, I think there's 48 people that live in dwellings at that Crossroads Estates right now. Well, based on the information I've got, there's probably going to be 60 more homes built in this subdivision before we even start on the 148 that Robeson is talking about. So when you combine the 148 and probably the 102 or more, there's over 250 households that are going to be going through Sarah Drive and the Southtown Drive. It was pretty much of a consensus that we felt that that was far too many households to going through those, especially since we're adjacent to Crossroads Mall and the area over there as far as the commercial businesses. There's excessive traffic. One of the things that people don't realize that happens in that subdivision is there's a lot of people use that as a back way to get to the mall. Now, just an example of this, if you take a look at Guernsey Park, which is just over Highway 20, and you take a look at the Landmark Commons, there's probably another 250 that are probably using that back way to go to Crossroads Mall. Now, so we developed our own traffic study. And what we did in that traffic study is we took this traffic that comes down Southtown Drive and to Sarah Drive on Hummingbird Circle. I personally did 5 different traffic studies completed at various times of the day, all 90 minutes in length to evaluate the amount of traffic that was going through there, how much of that traffic was really from our subdivision, and how much traffic was really there for the mall. And if you look at it, the timeframes that were selected were selected based upon when children could be outside playing, and we do have children on that street. The time study, if you look at the packet, only 10% of the people that were going through there are actually our subdivision, which is significant. Now, the numbers are real numbers in real time rather than a daily count that's averaged. So we want to maintain some sort of residential feel up there, and I don't think we can do that if we get much more traffic. So we developed a petition. Now, in the petition, what we said is we're not against the proposed Prairie Meadows Estate subdivision being constructed. However, we were all very opposed to the routing of the new subdivision through our subdivision. They should have their own outlet or outlets independent of our subdivision. Not only are we concerned about the normal car traffic, but the construction traffic as well. We know when we have construction, there's going to be construction traffic and trucks. But we don't need the construction traffic to build another subdivision. We don't need any more trucks. There were several people signing this petition that also had major concerns about, they were hopeful that the new proposed subdivision, which you just voted on, would be changed to a different residential type environment. And they were hoping that we could build twin homes on there rather than 3, 4, 5, and 6-plexes. Now, a little bit more here. One of the concerns was there's going to be too much congestion, and we also had concerns about the property values if you've got that much congestion in the area. Also, I've been talking to Mr. Skogman through one of his representatives, and Mr. Skogman has apparently sent an email to Noel, is that correct? Voicing his concerns that he supported what we were trying to do in this petition. Is that basically what he said, Noel? Okay. All 48 households in that subdivision called on personally by me. And there were 73 signatures in that petition. 100% participation. With one exception. We got a lady that's visiting Singapore, and she's out of the country till July. Some of the reasons, other concerns about attaching the new proposed subdivision to ours was, I don't know if a lot of people know that, but we're in a no truck zone. And that's been that way since 2001, I think. I checked with Sandy. And I guess at this point in time, we sure as heck have a lot of trucks. Today, during that 3 hour, I did another study today, 3 hours, and there was 6 dump trucks, full and empty, coming back. We had 4 FedEx trucks that didn't drop a thing off. And we had UPS that drove through there, didn't drop a thing off either. So pretty significant. We don't need any more. Child safety concerns. I've already, as a spokesman for this group, I've already had one family tell me I would have never purchased this home if I'd have known that the subdivision that they're talking about are being proposed was going to go by my front door. We don't want to become a pass-through community. And by a pass-through community, I'm saying we don't want our subdivision's houses to be vacant to supply an avenue for the new subdivision to be built. Roads in our subdivision, I've also given you a copy of what those look like. They probably don't do it justice because they did it right after a rain. You can't see how deep the potholes are. And many of our residents felt that if we allowed this to go forward, we'd be losing our residential environment and our identity of the neighborhood with the additional traffic. Folks, we want to be a residential community, not a commercial one. In summary, we as a subdivision do not want to be a pass-through community to accommodate the needs of the proposed Prairie Meadows subdivision. We want to maintain our residential environment, our identity, and the feel of our community. We really feel we're losing all three if you approve this. We understand we probably cannot stop the people traveling through our subdivision to go to and from shopping mall. That's probably not going to happen. But it is our hope, however, that we could convince the City Council to turn down the current Prairie Meadows Estates proposal as currently being proposed. This would also allow for future expansion. We understand that there is another option eastward of the Prairie Meadows subdivision that has already been entered into, to where we're going to put another division. So why not put a new outlet in now as to saddle that with ours? I know that they feel that our sewer system would accommodate through us. Well, maybe there's a compromise there. Maybe they can hook onto our sewer system, but we'd still like to have the road system be separate from ours. We'd like the city to evaluate plans, or study to evaluate separate outlets for the Prairie Meadow subdivision. So, if I can beg of you, please say no, council, to this proposal as it's being proposed. And I guess at this time, I'd like to take an opportunity to thank the mayor and the council for being so patient and listening to me. I have, for your information, I've got this in outline form, my presentation. And if you, as mayor and council, would like to have a copy of that, I'd share that with you. Would it be helpful?
And we would, sure. If you would just hand it, please, maybe to Director Trelka there, and Dan can pass those out, that would be great.
Should be 8 copies there.
Okay.
And I guess I would like for the people from our subdivision to stand. We are united, and there would have been a lot more people here tonight had we been a little bit later so they could have gotten off work. Some of the younger people couldn't make it. And if you got any questions, I'd entertain them at this time.
Okay, obviously, you're going to stick around for just a little
Yes.
bit, Ron, and, you know, you thanked us, but I would like to thank you also. You, too, have been very, very pleasant and understanding and so forth through this process, so that helps us work through this. Thank you very much. We will have a question period later, and you'll be available for questions if possible. Larry Oltroge. Larry?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and City Council. I have 6 valid points that I want you to be concerned with. Number 1, with 148 units added to the units either currently built or in the planning stages for Crossroads Estate, and the only way into or out of the north or south ends of Morning Drive, how difficult is it going to be for emergency personnel, fire, medical, police to access any of the homes either on the west or east side of the new development? Secondly, with streets in that new subdivision as narrow as currently designed, and with most of the curb taken up with driveways, there is no provision for on-street parking. We all know that the developer is going to place the garages as close as possible to the front line of the property so as to cut as much as possible the cost of the concrete in all those 148 double-wide driveways. Without on-street parking, how does a property owner accommodate guests at holidays like Easter, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Thanksgiving, or Christmas when families want to gather? And then what about graduations, weddings, baptism, confirmations? Have you been provided with any demographics about the potential purchasers of these units? Each of these units is going to be marketed as a single-family home in a condo association. I submit that the population density in this new proposed subdivision will be denser than any other condo single-story dwelling area currently in Waterloo. Number 3, the 2010 census shows that in Waterloo we had 2,116 vacant units. Now let me tell you about those. 1,104 of those 2,100 are for sale or for rent. But that still leaves 1,012 units that are just plain vacant. In view of the fact that our community is not growing, and the population in the 2010 census for Waterloo only was 68,406. And so population is at a near zero growth. Adding more housing units at the rate that you're granting requests for single and multiple family residences, where are all these new occupants going to come from? Do we take away occupants from the existing housing stock and further increase the vacancies we already have? We all know that houses that sit vacant for extended periods go downhill fast, particularly the older housing stock. Do we need more houses for the city of Waterloo to take title to and tear them down? We are not doing anything to help those neighborhoods with empty lots, which is another subject that I would, at another time, welcome the opportunity to talk to you about. We are not adding new employment opportunities to bring in an influx of people moving to our city, or are we? Bringing new employment opportunities to Waterloo has to be priority number one, and additional housing will follow. This is not like the Field of Dreams where we build the houses first and then the people come. Number 4, I am providing you with some history. If you want to pass these out. Get them apart. This is some history that I took from our MLS. And what that shows is only for Waterloo. Now, I know in the newspaper, when you read all these things in the newspaper, it is for the Cedar Valley, which is for our total MLS service. It includes Cedar Falls, Waverly, and surrounding communities. Okay? But anyway, so the focus that we should have is strictly on Waterloo. Overall, you have read in the news releases for the Waterloo Cedar Falls home sales are down from the previous periods a year ago in both the fourth and the first quarter. I have also separated out the sales in the $100,000 to $150,000 range and the $150,000 to $200,000 range. I did that because my best estimate of these new proposed units will fall in those ranges. You know as well as I that he's not going to build $300,000 units. I know that the city of Waterloo is anxious to expand the tax base, but this is not going to help today or anytime soon because of the tax abatements for 3 to 10 years. Therefore, any increases in city budgets, for whatever the reason, will be on the backs of the existing property tax payers. Pay particular attention to the first quarter and the April-May figures, which shows decreases in the average sales price and the median sale price. Notice as you go up in the ranges, there are fewer sales. The majority of sales are under $100,000. This also does not show any significant effect of new construction houses under $200,000. Point number 5, water runoff. The land slopes from the south to the north primarily. The longest streets run north and south. The earth that is covered with concrete, that is driveways, sidewalks, streets, are going to be sloped to take the rain that falls on them to the lowest point. Add to that the water coming off the roofs, for which there is only a limited amount of ground not covered by concrete or roofs, can't absorb it fast enough. We ought to have a pretty good stream following a heavy downpour, which I think I could safely predict is going to happen. Has engineering been involved and given you assurances that this will not be an issue? Financing properties is my last point. The difficulty, there's inherent difficulties in financing in condo associations because the lenders have a certain set of guidelines and rules that they have to go by. And so that amounts to how many rental units are in that condo association, and it also, there's a restriction on how many of those units can get FHA financing in order to finance the properties, which not only makes it hard to sell, or I mean to the initial buyer, but it's also very cumbersome to someone who wants to resell their own property. And that's a major concern, I think. Anyway, I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you.
Larry, you're more than welcome. Very well said. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak at this time? Yes, sir? Please step to the microphone. If you would, please give us your name and your address.
My name is Donald Peterson. I reside at 1333 Pintail Drive, a private street within the Hummingbird Circle. I do a lot of walking in the area, and I have nothing against contractors, but all of these contractors, as I walk, are not part of the Waterloo area. They're from Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, all those. There is no money coming in for contractors for this balance.
Okay, thank you, sir. Kathleen?
Kathleen Zamalik, 1121 Hummingbird Circle. I live alone. I'm 81 years old, and the traffic is terrible. When you have two dump trucks going by each other, the dishes in your cupboard are rattling. And we've had way too much of this. I mean, either you make it a no-truck street and you stick to it, or else zone it different so we know they're coming through and they're not breaking the law. That's my biggest concern, and thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen.
My name is Sarah Turner, and I live at 1217 Hummingbird Drive. We've lived on that street for about 6 years, and both Ron and my husband have on several occasions tried to get the council or someone to agree to put in at least speed bumps on Hummingbird Circle to keep the traffic going slower. You can't believe how fast the traffic travels on that street. If there was a child or a dog, in fact, we've had one dog hit and killed by someone on that street. So I think that, again, is another part of our concerns with all the traffic flow that's already there, much less all the traffic that will be there. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
My name is Jim Meese from 1309 Pintail Drive, and my opinion, and I think my wife's too, we might need a short-term and a long-term solution. With all the construction going on, if we can't put something in permanent immediately, there needs to be some sort of contractor entrance and exit, like when they start new projects in other places. The roads are totally deteriorated, the noise, the traffic, no one can park on the streets because the trucks are so big. They need to use a different route of some sort. We need either a short-term, a way for them in and out, so they're not coming through the neighborhoods. And long-term, again, we're not opposed to the 148 east of us, but you can't funnel that much traffic through those two streets. I don't even count between Walmart and Hy-Vee because that dumps onto a mall road. That's, to me, that's not even a true entrance and exit. So that's the way we stand on it.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
My name is Ron Sufer, and I live at 4020 Bobolink Drive. This might seem like a very small issue because I live on a cul-de-sac there in the area, but in the last 2 years I've had to replace 2 mailboxes because many of those people that do come through that area on Hummingbird Circle use my street as a turnaround, and it's getting kind of expensive to replace mailboxes at this rate. And I know that's rather a small issue, but it is a concern. And I know that if people are, the section across the street from me will be having homes in there soon, and if there are children that come into that area, that could be a safety issue for children also. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron, very much. Okay, if there's no one else, I'm going to ask staff to give us a report. Is there anyone else from the audience? Noel, would you like to start? Is there a developer here? Yes, sir. Sorry.
I'm Todd Hoppel with Anderson Bogut Engineers representing Robson Homes this evening. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to address the council. And also just want to thank Ron and Larry and everyone else that's given us comments tonight. We've got some of the same concerns. Just looking at the geometry of the streets in the area. The Hummingbird Circle between Southtown and Sarah, that is a natural cut through for traffic either coming from west side of town there or south of town to the Walmart and Hy-Vee area. That's an obvious cut through. Just when you see traffic backing up on San Mernan and Hammond Avenue, when we came in tonight, it was backed up quite far, and I can see why people use that as a cut through occasionally. And also understand just hearing every truck that goes through this neighborhood, the condition of the streets out there are not in great shape. And so I can hear the concerns on that as well. I did have a chance to talk to Joe Robson today about this development a little bit and some of the concerns that we've heard through the petition. He said all of his construction traffic right now that he's building on Morning Dove Drive, the street to the far east, which is the eastern addition of this Crossroads Estates addition, where he's building all the duplexes now. He said all his construction traffic is coming in off of Sarah Drive today. And it is true, most of his contractors are from the Cedar Rapids area, and they're coming up 218 and taking San Mernan over to the Crossroads area. He said he was going to make sure that everybody was using that Sarah Drive and not coming in through Southtown and using Hummingbird Circle. I imagine all the traffic that's going by there today is for the Skogman additions.
Todd, when and ladies and gentlemen, if you don't mind, let's let Todd speak, please. Okay.
But I did bring that up to Joe today, and he was going to reiterate with all his contractors to make sure they're using Sarah Drive coming in and taking immediate east.
Okay, that's my question was when they come up Sarah, then they take a left or go east and around.
He's going to make sure that all his construction traffic takes that during this project. So that was kind of one of the main things I wanted to convey. Also, when we approached the city last winter about potentially doing some more development to the east, we did talk about some of these access issues. And at that point, we are limited based on how this all was developed to the north, the Hy-Vee and the Walmart area and Bobo Link Drive and Morning Drive, how those were not extended across the drainage way. So, and Highway 20 being to the south. Like I say, Joe's developing a little over 20 acres now. With this development, he does have an option for another 20 acres that he's got to act on here in the next year. The thought for the next access point would be come off of Crossroads Boulevard, which is a little bit farther east, so it should be kind of at the east end of that next 20 acres. And then also we're getting a little bit closer to Hess Road over there too, which would provide another couple access points onto Hess Road. So it's kind of a growing pain here in the interim, but there's not a lot of other options to get this land developed.
Todd, the second access or the next access that you just talked about, what would be the time frame do you think that might be developed?
The next one?
Yeah, the next access off of Crossroads Drive.
That would be the development following this 148 acres or 148 unit acre or development, which is the Prairie Meadows Estates. That would be at the eastern edge of the next addition. So, you know, when this next 148 unit development was probably nearing 3/4 completion, he'd probably move forward on the next addition. So we're probably 3 or 4 years down the road.
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Cole?
May I ask you, the next division, the one that's 4 years down the road perhaps, are you looking at multiple family dwellings or single family homes? Or do you know yet?
I do not know that yet.
Okay.
I think Joe's fairly responsive to the market.
Okay.
If the need is for more single family, that's what he'd like to go with. If it's back to duplexes, that's what he's going to do. He's usually pretty right on top of the market. Whatever's selling, that's what he's developing. So.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any
Anybody
other
else have
questions?
questions for Todd? Right now, anyway, we can always call him back.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Welper?
Obviously, you're not going to build 148 units right off the bat. How many do you plan to build a year?
I believe we're going to do this in 2 phases. I don't have the number. It seems like 80 units sticks in my mind for the first phase, and then the remainder in phase 2. Does that sound right, Noel? Okay.
80 units for the first year?
The first 2 years.
First 2 years?
Yes.
40 new units a year?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And right now, he's putting duplexes on Morning Dove Drive, which he'll probably be about out of that by the end of the year. Be ready to move into this area next year.
Mr. Morrissey, did you have a question?
Yes, I was, Mr. Hoppel, what would Robson Homes Incorporated do if this was rejected?
Likely just shut down the project.
Okay. And how do you answer the 100% of the residents, well, nearly 100% of the residents' concerns about the traffic flow in there while you're doing this? I still haven't heard your answer other than 3 to 4 years down the road.
Right. I guess looking at it, in my opinion, a lot of the people from this neighborhood are probably going to use Sarah Drive. Probably over half would use Sarah Drive, maybe 2/3. We can certainly handle the construction issues now by using Sarah Drive. It is a tough one because we just have limited access into this area. There's a lot of physical constraints in just to develop this part of town.
Todd, why can't we build a road now? Why can't you put another construction access road like was suggested? Why can't that be done?
There's another developer on the north side of the drainage way that owns the property off of Crossroads Boulevard. Basically, that's their property. Joe doesn't have access to that property. Then there's the physical constraint of getting across that major drainage way, which we'll have to talk about. I'm sure it's going to be a cost share between 2 developers in the city to get across that thing. And then there's another 800 feet or so to get back to the addition he's talking about now. So it's physical and fiscal constraints right now.
Okay.
As far as the cut-through traffic, I think the city could look at some different traffic calming devices on that street, just to slow people down and make it a little more difficult for people that want to use that as a cut-through. So.
And we are doing that for everybody's sake. Thank you, Todd.
Anything else?
Without further questions,
Mr. Mayor?
I've got a few questions. Go ahead.
Mr. Schmidt.
Eric, regarding the water flow, I assume that's been, where'd it go? That's all been signed off on by engineering, that item was brought up.
Eric Thurston, we're continuing to work with Todd on that. We haven't finalized up, but they'll be designing to the same standards that they do anywhere else in the city, and they're getting close. We've seen some conceptual plans, and my assistant and Todd have been working on some final details to make sure that everything meets those standards.
Thank you. The truck embargo, did I understand that there is a truck embargo on those streets and we're just choosing not to enforce it, or what did I hear about that?
We're still looking into that. I've talked to Mr. Director Trelka about
Okay.
that, and I believe that there is a truck embargo, and it has not been enforced as diligently as it should be, Mr. Schmidt.
Okay.
And we are looking at that. We are also doing a traffic count to look at putting
Speed bumps.
Speed bumps.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
Okay. And then finally, I guess for Noel, given the number of houses that we seem to think could be there in the next few years, 250, 260, having only 2 streets, would that be typical or would that not be typical?
Noel Anderson, Community Planning and Development Director. You know, we're almost being punished for this being a very quickly growing area of the community. This is pretty much how development occurs. You build off of your existing infrastructure, and then you continue to build off of that and then look for new connections to other infrastructure. Kind of similar to anyone that's had a teenage son and he seems to grow 3 inches and you keep buying pants for him and you can't just guess where he's going to end up and buy the length of your pants, you keep buying the pants. And as they're building in stages out here, they're going to the next phase and they're going to the next phase, continuing to work with city staff, and obviously we have ordinances and rules in place for when you have to make those connections and plan for those. So I mean, when sewer lines are designed, when water lines are designed, they're designed for sizes based on where they're going to connect to the next one so that that's all accommodated. Similar with the street system, we're continuing to provide multiple access points from the west end of this new subdivision to the east end so that when we get to another point, either to the north or the east, that we can make multiple connections and have a better flow of traffic through there. You're looking at, it's a long-term solution for short-term development phases, and we just have to continue to plan and get there.
So from a public safety standpoint, this would not be anything out of the norm?
I don't believe so. Director Trelka can answer that too, but I mean, as part of the technical review committee that looks at plats and site plans and rezonings, police and fire both are represented there, and they do a good job of attending those and commenting on those and did not raise any concerns.
Thank you.
Does anybody have further questions for Todd?
Yes,
Specific-
Mr. Mayor, I
Tom,
do.
Please.
Have you considered putting a haul road on the south side of the property to get all the construction traffic in? That, the little road that goes up on the side of Home Depot, they get up in here, that south parcel?
We haven't approached any other property owners to utilize their property as a haul road.
Who owns the property on this south side here, Noel?
It's a landscaping company.
But I mean these lots, the platted lots.
Oh, I believe Skogman does.
Okay. I mean, could you approach the landscaping company, put a haul road along there, temporary road to get the construction traffic at least off their streets?
We could approach them on that, yes. We could.
That'd be a solution for the construction traffic.
They'd be coming in on Southtown and having to go through the Home Depot. Or south, I think it's Alexandria. They'd have to go south on Alexandria.
That's pretty close. No? And then the other question is, all we're doing is going from R3 to R3 RP. That's more restrictive, isn't it? Don't we have now more control? Isn't this a benefit to that neighborhood?
Noel Anderson, Community Planning Development Director. We believe so. The majority of this area, and I'll pass out a couple of maps that show the area to be rezoned, which I think you have in your packets, but just as a refresher. And then the area requesting the site plan amendment. So this area has been zoned R3, RP, and R3 as those are being passed around since 1969. So it was planned for this. Obviously, we continue to adapt and look at, as developments occur, there's small site plan amendments. The duplex one was a good example of that, where originally the entire area out there, I think, was duplexes. We switched For the Skogman single-family homes, that was amended to allow for the single-family homes instead of duplexes there. There was a request originally to change some of the duplexes on the next road over, which was not changed by council, so on Morning Dove Drive, it remained duplexes. And again, you'll see in the area to be rezoned, that is zoned R3, R3 now, just straight R3, so for them to build on an R3 parcel, they wouldn't have to come to council. It's just a permit process as long as they meet the requirements. We actually recommended going with a larger R3, RP area to work with the developer. Since part of it was R3, RP and part of it was R3, we thought it would be easier to have it all as one zoning district. Allows them a little bit more flexibility in the street designs, but it also gives the city council the ability to approve the site plan as submitted.
Thanks.
So Noel, what you're saying is that even if the council rejected this, they could go ahead with their plans?
They could, and they could go ahead and change them and put in a different street design that maybe the neighbors would not like as much, or they could go with, and I'm not trying to scare people, I'm just letting you know the options, they could go with 3 50-unit apartment buildings back there if they wanted to in the R3, because we don't have any ability to say they cannot build those. It's already correctly zoned. With the R3, RP, the safeguard to the council and to the neighbors is once it's approved, that's what they have to build unless they come back and the council changes it.
So, no, I'm sorry, if you would you clarify again, maybe for all those that are like me, that are really hard to understand things, adding the RP to the R3 does what? Gives council more control? What does adding the RP do?
Correct. The RP requires site plan approval then for building. So if an area was strictly, was just zoned R3.
Which it is now.
A portion of it is. They could just go ahead and build whatever the zoning ordinance allows in the R3. So again, let's say they want to build apartment buildings. They could build those. With the R3 RP, it adds in the site plan approval process as a requirement to go through the city council. Again, that process gives neighbors notification, requires public hearings to go to the press, and then requires a hearing such as this at the city council. So again, the reason we developed a lot of the RP sections in the past is there was rezonings, let's say 30 years ago. The developer would come in and say, I'm going to build this. They'd rezone the land, and then the developer would build something different that was also allowed in that zoning district. The RP basically makes them stick to the plan that they submit and is approved by council.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Smith.
Just a real quick question. It was mentioned that you got an email from Skogman. Was it just a email of support, or did they have any thoughts or recommendations that warrant a conversation?
Sure. Mr. Skogman did not, obviously, as a developer, did not want to oppose what another developer was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, he thought it would look greedy if he was trying to oppose their development while he's developing right next to them, and it's all primarily based on traffic concerns, and some of the traffic is his. He did, however, support what the neighbors' concerns were with traffic in the area, because obviously he wants the area to grow positively as well, as I think Robeson does. I mean, it's really, I think someone said growing pains, and that's part of the traffic concern here. There's going to be a lot of traffic for construction. Hopefully we can do something to potentially stop some of the pass-through traffic, but while it's under construction, there's definitely going to be a lot of traffic out there.
Thank you.
Further questions for Todd?
Todd, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Morrison?
Having heard that, if this, going to R3, RP was rejected by the council, would you go back to R3 with that type of development?
Well, the reason we came to rezone the remaining piece is just to clean things up a little bit, because it was such a jagged line. The existing zoning line was such a jagged line through there, and once we laid out the streets and the buildings, that zoning line was going through buildings every which way, and just to clean things up for the future and going forward, it thought it'd be best to rezone it. And it does hold our feet to the fire a little bit more with the site planning.
Without this, so would have you gone forward?
Without the rezoning?
Yeah, right. With it still being zoned R3, would have you gone forward as your development?
I think the original answer is yes to that. Like I say, we were just trying to clean things up a little bit, and so it wasn't messy down the the path for the city in the future, so.
Thanks, Todd. Yes, sir? Mr. Anderson. Thanks, Todd.
Just as a note, so part of it is zoned R3 RP, you saw on the map, part of it is zoned R3. There's two actions on the city council agenda. One is for the rezoning. If that were denied, as Mr. Morrissey has requested or asked, they could still potentially build there. The other action on there is the site plan amendment. If the site plan amendment were denied, they cannot build the project. Because again, they still need to have a site plan amendment for that existing RP section.
Which brings up an interesting point, Council. This item number 3 is worded somewhat differently than any item that I had seen before, and I questioned it with the clerk's office today, and I don't know if you guys have caught it yet, but there's actually 2 motions in that one agenda item. There's a motion to rezone, and there's also a motion to approve the site plan. And there's one hearing, which is why it was done that way, so we could have one hearing addressing both issues. But there are 2 motions, to rezone and to approve the site plan. As we close the hearing, there will be two motions following, which is, again, I haven't seen this before. It's a little bit of an odd situation, but the clerk's office suggested we do it this way for clarity and for the purpose of the hearing. So just kind of be prepared for that. It's a little different. Questions, comments, further comments needed?
Do you want me to move? I move that we close the hearing and receive and file oral and written comments. Was there more? Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Brockenstedt? Okay, please do.
And I'm Ron Bockenstedt. I'm up at Hummingbird Circle. I wasn't going to bring this up tonight, but I did another study today, a 3-hour traffic study behind my house. I delineated another way, which also opened my eyes as to the traffic that goes by our housing development. I broke it down by county plate, and it was quite surprising how many Tama County, Benton County, Lynn County, Grundy County people take that back way. Of the 205 people in that 3-hour period of time that drove through that subdivision, 23% were not Delaware or Blackhawk County plates. 7 or 8 of them were out of state. They were the guy with the suit and tie, the professional guy who was going to probably call on somebody in the mall. What they're doing, and I kind of followed that process today, is they're turning on from Highway 21 south, turning on Shawless Road, taking Hammond east, north, turning south on Southtown Drive. So 23% of that traffic, and understanding that there's a lot of people in Black Hawk County that live between Waterloo and Dysart. So we've got a bigger issue than what I talked about before with Guernsey Park and the others. So now, talking about that, while I was doing that 3-hour study, I was sure waving at the Benton County trucks as they were driving by. So he doesn't have that under control. There were seven of them drove by while I was there. And they're kind of wondering why I was sitting in my easy chair underneath the tree. But I guess there's so much more to this. It is a complex issue. And I just wanted to reiterate that.
Okay. Mr. Brockenstedt, I will assure you that no matter how this votes tonight, I anticipate there is going to continue to be development in that area. And I can anticipate that there will continue to be cut-through traffic. It is, after all, a public street that we can't stop that. But we can do some things, no matter how this turns out tonight. And I will pledge to you that our police department will start enforcing the no trucks rule as soon as we're sure that it's posted properly, that there's signs posted out there that are very easily to see. We will start enforcing the truck embargo. I'm not sure exactly how we do that with construction trucks that are bringing lumber and so forth to the work site. I'm assuming there will have to be some kind of an exception made for that, because those trucks have to get to that site. But pass-through trucks and trucks that are just going through there, we will enforce that. We have started the traffic count. Sandy has, I believe, to do rumble strips or to do whatever, and I'm assuming that that could happen very soon. We now install those, speed humps. I don't know why my mind's dead. We can do that very soon. Generally speaking, we have to have the neighborhood's approval. I'm assuming we have that in this case to put. Sure.
How many here, how many of you live on Hummingbird Circle?
Yeah.
And how many of you would go for speed bump? Everybody here.
Okay, so we've got neighborhood approval, so we'll get speed humps put in. When could we have that done, Sandy?
Well, it has to come through council.
Okay, it has to be a council action, but probably there's no council meeting next week. I would assume that for the next council meeting, we could have it on the agenda, which will be 2 weeks from today, and then we could have them installed shortly thereafter.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Morrissey?
could we add a friendly amendment to this?
Let's not until it comes through traffic, Mr. Morrissey, please.
Location.
Yeah, let's do it.
One other thing, I guess.
Mr. Brockenstedt, please come to the microphone.
I guess what my initial comment was this: we weren't opposed to them constructing.
I understand.
It was the traffic that we
I
were.
understand, and we're going to work with you on that.
Okay, and that's all I can ask. That's what I was hoping to achieve this evening. And I thank you and the council for listening.
Okay, well, and again, I don't know how the vote's going to go yet, but there is a motion on the floor to close the hearing and receive and file. I haven't heard a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
I move that we receive, file, consider, and pass for the first time an ordinance amending ordinance number 5079 as amended, City of Waterloo zoning ordinance by amending the official zoning map referred to in section 10-4-4, approving a rezone on certain property.
Second.
Very good, council. And again, just a second time, this motion is to approve the rezoning, not the site amendment. Madam Clerk, that's a roll call vote,
Mr.
please.
Mayor,
Yes.
just one quick question.
Mr. Lyon.
And to be perfectly clear, this will make the zoning more restrictive, this vote.
It will, I don't know if more restrictive is the correct word, Mr. Lynn. It will require any amendment to come
Correct.
back to the council for
Okay.
approval.
Thanks.
Yes. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hurt?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
No.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
I move we suspend the rules.
Second.
Did Mr. Lynn vote? I don't
Yeah.
believe.
Want me to vote?
Sorry, I
You're-
thought I
you're
started
one-
with you.
You're one short.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Very good. That motion carries.
Okay. Now I
So-
move we suspend the rules.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
No.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Very good. That motion carries also.
I move we consider and pass for the second and third times and adopt the ordinance.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please.
Can I ask?
Yes,
so-
Mr. Hart.
So if this goes through, we could move forward also with some of the speed bumps or speed humps.
Those
as
will go
well,
f-
because this action is approved.
The speed hump, the controlling the truck traffic has nothing to do with this ordinance whatsoever. We will do that irregardless of what happens.
Okay.
Madam Clerk?
Ms. Cole?
No.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Very good. That motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, so just so we know what happened, so the first motion was to rezone the property. That motion passed. Ms. Cole?
I move we receive, file, consider, and pass for the first time an ordinance amending ordinance number 5079 as amended, City of Waterloo zoning ordinance by amending the official zoning map referred to in section 10-4-4, approving a site plan amendment on certain property.
Second.
Very good. Council, is there any need for explanation on this? Madam Clerk, it's a roll call vote.
Mr. Jones?
No.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
No.
Very good, that motion carries.
I move that we suspend the rules.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
No.
Mr. Lind?
No.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Okay, that motion fails. So we rezoned the property, but we did not approve the site plan amendment. So we will be back to do the site plan amendment in 2 weeks for the second reading. Ladies and gentlemen, that, we do have one other, well, that's going to be a moot point now. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all. Ron, thank you for coming. Thank you for voicing your concerns. Your concerns are valid, and they were very well put and very well taken. We are in a difficult situation where we want to encourage growth and we encourage development. We will do, as a city, all we can to help you with the traffic issues as we work towards building a better Waterloo. So thank you all for coming.
If I could have one request, keep me informed as to what's going on here.
Absolutely.
I think you've got my name and address.
Absolutely.
And I've pretty well got the ear of the community, and I probably can give you a pretty good ear as to how people will feel about it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boggs. And thank you all for coming. And as I extended the other invitation, you're welcome to stay for the rest of the council meeting, but please, if you'd like to leave, go ahead and do so, and we'll give you time to get out of the chambers before we move on with our business.
You can get up 5 times. No.
I just want to table item 17 and we'll get to it to go to the next hearing because you wouldn't approve of that as far as I want it.
I know. What does that do with?
You probably just table 17.
Okay.
To go to the next hearings on for the site plan.
Okay. Okay. Okay, if we can move forward, please, ladies and gentlemen, let's take up item number 4.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Hart?
Move to receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing for a request of Dennis Hagenow to vacate the west 40 feet of David Street located south of West Parker Street, subject to the retention of a utility easement over, under, and upon the entire area to be vacated.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried, and the hearing is now open. Madam Clerk, are there any written objections on file to item number 4? There is one written objection on file to item number 4, which is to vacate David Street. That objection will be on file in the clerk's office if anybody would like to see it. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak either for or against item number 4 tonight, which is vacating 40 feet of David Street? A second time.
Mr. Mayor, move to close the hearing and receive and file written comments and recommendation of approval of Planning, Programming, and Zoning Commission.
Second.
Council, do you have any questions or comments regarding this item?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Schmidt?
Could I ask Mr. Anderson or Mr. Schrader, one or the other, to give us a little overview on this? I know this
Oh,
is kind
please.
of a contentious issue, and I'd like to make sure we're clear on it.
Noel Anderson, Community Planning Development Director. This is a portion of, it's actually an easement. It's called David Street because it was an easement for public road purposes south of Parker, just to the west of the Jet Lounge. The two neighbors have been trying to work out how to vacate this and still make the business work. There were some barricades placed there at one point by one owner because it was private property, but with the easement over there, they couldn't place the barricades there. So we're continuing to try to work out the differences between the two of them. The actual full easement area is 80 feet, so this is that west 40 feet of that that they're working to vacate first to go with the building to the west so they could use it for more purposes with the easement gone. I did receive a call from the Jet owners earlier hoping that this would not be approved all in one night. They were unable to attend tonight So if it is approved, they didn't want us to suspend the rules on this one, so they would have the opportunity to come to the next council meeting.
So have those barricades been removed from a month ago or 6 weeks ago?
They were removed from the east 40 feet, so they were moved on this portion. So if you drove by this site, where the barricades are is the portion to be vacated right now.
Gotcha.
It was kind of a compromise with us to get the owner to move them quickly without us taking code enforcement action while this was still proceeding through.
Thank you.
No, wait. Mr. Hart?
No, does this action impact that business at whatever, or put the jet or that business at a disadvantage?
At the Planning Commission, when the full 80 feet was barricaded, the Jet did note that they had a tremendous loss in business because their patrons were confused as to how to gain access to them. So that was why we wanted to move quickly to get the barricades moved back. I'm not certain as to what they're going to say when they're here next time, so that was why they either wanted the council to not approve it all in one night or table it, but they wanted to be able to be here and speak to the council, and they were just unable to do that tonight.
Anybody else for Noel? Noel, I have one question, please. Does this easement come at the request of the city or at the request of Mr. Hagenow?
It is the request of Mr. Hagenow.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, one question
Mr.
for
Lynn?
Noel. Hey, I thought,
You guys just like to see me dance when I try to leave.
I want you to get halfway back to your seat. I thought the Jet bought into this the last time we talked. This was the compromise. This
They
was
were
the
at the
grant.
last planning commission meeting, and they did not speak against it. I'm not certain exactly. I mean, it was a short message from them. I didn't get a chance to speak to them as to why their concern is again.
No. Did staff recommend that this go forward?
We did recommend the vacation of the west 40 feet,
You did.
as did the planning commission.
Okay.
Very good. Further comments or questions?
Already got, we need to do a roll call vote.
Oh, did you make them?
We already moved to close the hearing and whatever.
I don't think we got to the voice vote part.
Yeah, I
think you just have to say-
okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we receive, file, consider, and pass for the first time an ordinance vacating the west 40 feet of Davis Street located south of West Parker Street, subject to the retention of utility easement over, under, and upon the entire area to be vacated.
Second.
Madam Clerk, this is a roll call vote.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Very good, the motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I move to suspend the rules.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
No.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
No.
Ms. Cole?
No.
Mr. Jones?
No.
Mr. Schmidt?
No.
Very good, the motion fails. We'll take that up for a second reading in 2 weeks. Item number 5, please.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Hart?
I move to receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing for the FY15 police vehicle equipment and vehicle equipment and equipment installation.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries and the hearing is now open. Madam Clerk, were there any written objections on file to item number 5?
There were not.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak either for or against us equipping our police vehicles with equipment? Oh, okay. That was going to really surprise me if you were going to do that.
Mr. Mayor, I move
A
to...
second time. All right.
Mr. Mayor, I move to close the hearing.
Second.
Council, do you have any questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt a resolution confirming approval of specifications, bid documents, et cetera.
Second.
It's a roll call vote, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt a resolution authorizing to proceed.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Very good. That motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I move to receive and file and instruct city clerk to read bids and refer to Director of Safety Services for review.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Madam Clerk?
Okay. Looks like there was 3 bids. The first bid is from Raycom. And their total bid was $13,957.87, 13,957.87. The next bid was from Electronic Engineering, and their total bid was $12,229.68, 12,229.68. And the final bid is from RC Systems, and their total bid is for $13,302.90, 13,302.90.
Very good. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Could I just make a quick observation, council, that I think all of you have this, do you not, or do you not? Have this?
Oh, yes.
This, I think, is just an excellent example of why we opened bids early. We would have had no way to be able to tabulate this if we tried to open this tonight because of so many different items on this, so it was good that it was open. We have a tabulation. We know exactly what the totals are and how to award the bid. So just an observation. Thank you for indulging me. Let's move on to item number 6, please.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Welper.
Number 6, a motion to receive and file proof of publication of a notice of a public hearing for the fiscal year 2014 treatment plant levy tree removal, contract number 868.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries, and the hearing is now open. Madam Clerk, are there any objections on file?
There were none.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak either for or against item number 6, the treatment plant levy tree removal contract? A second time.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Council, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to adopt a resolution confirming approval of plans, specifications, form of contract, et cetera.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Walter?
Yes.
Very good. The motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to adopt a resolution ordering construction.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Very good. The motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to receive and file, consider, and instruct the city clerk to read bids and refer to city engineer for review.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Madam Clerk?
There was 3 bids with an estimate of $153,095.75, 153,095.75. The first bid is from Boulder Contracting of Grundy Center, Iowa, with a bid security of 5%. The bid amount is $164,957.50, 164,957.50. The next bid is from Peterson Contractors, Inc. of Rhinebeck, Iowa. Their bid bond was for 5%, and their total bid was for $181,539.95, 181,539.95. The final bid is from Beath Construction Corp. of Cedar Falls, Iowa, with a bid bond of 5%, and the bid amount is $122,857.40, 122,857.40.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
And we'll call bingo. Yes.
Let's do 7, 8, and 9 in resolutions, please.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Schmidt.
Item number 7, I'd like to adopt a resolution approving annual renewal agreement with Safety National Casualty at a cost not to exceed $151,955 per year to provide workers' compensation stop-loss coverage. Item number 8 is adopting a resolution approving renewal of general and auto liability, law enforcement, public officials, errors and omissions, and umbrella insurance for a total premium of $894,799 of traveler's insurance, together with recommendation of approval of insurance committee. And item number 9 is adopting a resolution approving renewal of property insurance for a total premium of $362,475 with Chubb Insurance, together with recommendation of approval of insurance committee.
Second.
Council, do you have any questions regarding 7, 8, or 9?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Lind.
I have a question on the number 9. How much did the insurance increase for the new buildings, the $35 million worth of new buildings? Do we have an idea? Like, what did the Sportsplex cost us, and what did the Public Works building cost us? Do we have those breakdowns?
I don't have an individual breakdown per location, but it was approximately 11%, if I'm remembering correctly. So you have to. 11% of the increase, I guess, I shouldn't say it. But 11% of the increase from last year was
11%.
on those two. I could certainly get you those actual numbers, but there was approximately an 11% increase due to
Then
the new buildings.
would we save anything if we sold some of the old buildings, taking them off?
Potentially, I mean.
Would that be
it-
significant, or it'd be,
It would depend on which ones we sold and what their value was, I guess.
I mean, do they detail that stuff in some kind of document?
Yes, yeah, our property's all valued.
Just a comment, I was fortunate enough to meet with Frank Dowie Saturday, and he kind of went through our insurance. It was a lot more complicated than I thought it was. I was going to vote against this stuff because I thought we should go out and get bids. But after talking to him, I kind of saw what the insurance committee does and et cetera, and you do.
Great.
My comment is maybe next year, the last meeting you have when you're going to bring this to the council, if maybe we could participate, you know, so I don't have to go on the outside and get Frank Dowie to show me what he showed you.
Yeah, at any point.
Or
we
does
can-
that become a public hearing and, or maybe you could do it a couple council people at a time?
We can look at all those options. I'm totally open at any time. You can come in too, and I can show you everything we've got, so, and with them, so we could even do it individual if you'd like.
Okay.
Yep.
I would appreciate that.
Very good. Thanks for meeting with Frank, whether that was purposeful or happenstance. I'm glad you did.
No, it was on purpose.
Very good.
To get informed.
Good. Thanks, Councilman Mann. All right. It's a roll call. Are there further questions on 7, 8, or 9? Madam Clerk, it's a roll call vote.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Thank you.
We do 10 and 11, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Morrissey.
I'd like to make a resolution approving recommendation of award of bid to U.S. Cellular for wireless communication services and authorize mayor and city clerk to execute a 2-year service contract and number 11, resolution authorizing city clerk to certify against certain parcels for unpaid life safety and rental inspection fees and unpaid garbage and sewer fees.
Second.
Council, do you have any questions on 10 or 11?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
on number 10, so we had Verizon before, right?
That's correct.
We're switching to US Cellular.
Yes.
Do we have a lot of upfront cost of getting new phones for everybody? And
There's not a lot. Obviously, for some of the accessories, such as cases, most of the chargers are interchangeable nowadays, thank goodness. So not like we used to, I guess, would be a good answer. There may be some. Most of the phones are a penny, so those aren't going to have a substantial cost. It would truly just be some accessories. We will have some costs, which I will be bringing back to you in whatever form of tablets we go to when we go electronic. So that's part of this bid, but I'm not ready to purchase those yet until obviously the contract is approved. So there will be some equipment, but it won't necessarily be just from switching phones.
okay. And are we buying smartphones with data plans, or are we buying just regular?
We have a handful, but the majority of our phones, mass majority of our phones are just flip phones.
They still make those, huh?
They do. They make
Okay.
some pretty rugged ones.
Did ya? And do you have a policy over who gets what type of phone and for what reasons and usage?
No, but it all goes through department heads and then to me and Michelle and the mayor, so it's not very,
It's vetted.
yeah.
Vetted.
I don't know how
Okay.
to- Thank you. I couldn't say that politically correct.
All right, moving right along.
Thank you.
And it's worth noting, since you brought it up, that we did get substantial savings by we're not just changing companies for the fun of it. We got substantial savings by going with U.S. Cellular.
And I will give kudos to Verizon. They have been great for the last 2 years. Their customer service was fantastic. So I want, in case they're watching, they were good, and we certainly weren't initially looking to change, but it was a substantial enough savings that we couldn't stay where we were.
Have we taken a roll call on that yet?
No.
No. Madam Clerk, it's a roll call vote.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole? Yes. Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Very good, the motion carries. Item number 12, please.
Mayor,
Mr. Hart.
move to adopt a resolution approving an animal control services agreement between the City of Waterloo and the City of Cedar Falls and authorize mayor and city clerk to execute said document.
Second.
Council, do you have questions or comments regarding item number 12?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Lynn.
I've struggled with this for months, weeks, and I can't figure out how we're going to come out on this contract with the city of Cedar Falls, how we're going to make any money. I think we're going to lose money. I think this is a terrible idea why we should be helping Cedar Falls out with their animal control issues. I think we should concentrate on the problems we have in Waterloo with animal control, rather than trying to save the world. I know that the theory was that we're going to maybe, quote, cover some of our expenses. But the handouts I've gotten, we basically break even. So I don't understand why we would even do it. It would be like going up and doing police work up there for them at a net zero. Why do it? Unless we're getting something, a major benefit back. And I just worry about, we pick up the dogs, we keep them for a week, we're gonna have costs involved. I can't make it work when I look at my own little pro forma.
Okay, and I appreciate your comments very much, Tom, and I am going to ask Sandy to give an explanation, but I want to start with a caveat of my own. First of all, I think anytime we have the opportunity to have intercity cooperation and relation, that's why Mr. Schmidt is making an ongoing effort to try to get the two councils together. Every opportunity that we can have to work together, it's not about whether we make money or not. It's whether we can do it better efficiently, more efficiently, and cover the costs. I think it's a win-win situation when we can combine on efforts to do that. So I think there's a lot of reasons in that respect to try to work things out, whether it's police, whether it's with fire, whether it's with animal control, whether it's with the library, whether it's with the EMA, whether it's with Met Transit, no matter what it is that we share services with. I think there's a really good reason to do that for those reasons alone. Obviously, we don't want to lose money, and I don't think we will. And I'm going to ask Sandy to come to the microphone, but I'm going to say that I think Sandy is a very smart lady. I think she is very capable of figuring out, based on known data, what the potential for this is, the potential cost and the potential revenue. And she has a budget to work by. And she is not about to go over budget. We have 30 days to get out of any contract that we enter into. And with all of the scrutiny that animal control is under, whatever she tries to do with animal control, and God bless her, I mean, we have taken over that contract and the complaints are almost at zero. She has done an incredible job, she and her staff, at handling animal control. Cedar Falls, obviously, was not particularly happy with the Humane Society, or they wouldn't have put this out to bid and come to us in the first place. So I think it's just one more reason that solidifies why we took over animal control in the first place. We're doing an incredible job with what we are charged to do with animal control. We are not an adoption service. But anyway, I'm getting off kilter. I think Sandy is a very capable person, and I think she's done a very good job of vetting this and of looking at all of the costs and the potential revenue. And calls could always come in short, Tom. I mean, maybe the calls don't amount to what we expect them to be, and we can see that trend. We can see that coming. We have 30 days to cancel and get out of the contract. But Sandy, why don't you tell us how you got to where you are, please?
Sandy Greco, Superintendent of Traffic Operations. I did what's called a sensitivity analysis and took the number of calls that Cedar Falls has had in the last 2 years. I use that as an average. I went in the chart I sent you today. I'm going to ask for one more part-time officer. I'm going to have to redo our budget for our 2015 fiscal year budget. Just move money around to cover that. and I won't have a problem doing that. I also have a cost for kennels. I'll break this down. If we need to purchase more kennels for Cedar Falls to hold their animals, we figure about $700. Kennels last for at least 10 years or longer, depending. These will all be inside. Fuel, my budget for next year is about $16,000 for us. I'm figuring that it'll be an average estimate of 200 gallons per month for Cedar Falls, which comes out to about $8,400 a year. For vets, over the last 2 years of Cedar Falls, I figured about 31 animals a month, and this could be lower. They are doing an agreement with the Humane Society tonight that if Cedar Falls residents would get a stray animal, they have the option of either taking it out to the Humane Society themselves and dropping it off, which the city of Cedar Falls will be charged. I'm not sure. I better not say, because I'm not real sure what that amount is, but it's up there. Or they can hold the animal, we'll pick it up, or the police department also sometimes gets a hold of stray animals, and they will hold them in, they have a couple kennels set up in their garage that we will go up and pick up. So I base that on 31 animals per month, based on the last 2 years, which would be about $25 each for a vet cost. A lot of times we don't take animals to the vet if they have a rabies ID tag on them. We can usually find the owner. If they don't want to come and pick it up, at least we can verify that the animal is valid and has a valid rabies. Otherwise, after a couple days, if we don't, we will take an animal up. Before it can leave our facility, it has to have a valid rabies certificate. It has to have a valid rabies shot. We, in turn, do our own flea treatments and distemper, which is what is administered when the animals come right in. Meds, that's basically what our flea treatment, distemper, other things that we buy that we can administer ourselves. Also, based on that, about $9.35 an animal, we figure. I also have a vehicle cost where we are in the process of, I'm going to be coming to you to approve for us to hopefully go to gaming for a new vehicle. I've been approached by some gaming people to submit that. So I figure a new vehicle or an old one for repairs, an initial cost $20,000 or so, $8,000 salvage when you get rid of it, and we replace them. We figure about every 5 years. So that would be a $2,400 charge to Cedar Falls every year. Maintenance one would be, of course, our oil changes, tire rotations, things like that. That's also charged back. Maintenance for like new tires, brakes, whatever else a vehicle needs. That also is charged back. It's a small amount, but it's also charged back to Cedar Falls. We have our building maintenance and janitorial. We have building rental. We have utilities and on-call. We have an officer on call every night. These 4 items, whether we have Cedar Falls or not, we're paying for them. So it's our cost, no matter if we have Cedar Falls contract or not. So that basically, even though we're charging Cedar Falls back, is a bonus to us. Okay, most of this, everything charged back to Cedar Falls is on a 34%, which what I did was I based this on the population of Cedar Falls versus Waterloo, and so they would be charged about 34% of what it cost us. For the food, a yearly cost, this be food, treats, also like kitty litter and stuff, I figured out to maybe about $3 a day, maybe not even that much, just depending on if we can get more food donated to us, which we are going out to different agencies for that. So all of our costs were based on the last 2 years of Cedar Falls. So if I base this on, like I said, 2 years, I took it by the month. An estimate for cats brought in would be, and this could change, this is just based on 2 months, would be 9 cats, 18 dogs, 7 wildlife, 10 DOAs, and 4 deer. This is all per month. With the costs per hour, or per call, I'm sorry, per call, on a regular day, I took it as no overtime, which would be the bonus for an on-call person. I didn't use any of that. I just used our regular call during 8 to 4. And if it plays as it did the last 2 years, our total would be about $4,800 a month, which comes up to a little over $57,000 a year. So if you look back, my total here was like $62,600. But if you subtract the costs that we have, no matter if we get Cedar Falls or not, it's $47,000. Any redemptions, any costs inferred by an animal, say flea treatments, distemper, any of that, when the animal is redeemed by the pet owner, all that will be charged back to the pet owner. Vet bills, anything, they will be liable for. They will also have the option of being microchipped, and we will charge for that. Cedar Falls is not requiring that like we do now in our ordinance, but that's just an option we'll be able to give to them. So I broke it all down. So it's not perfect. This is a first. We don't know what calls are going to come in. I believe that we'll be fine. And if not, if it looks like this is not working out, I'll come back to you and ask to cancel the contract. But you have to remember, if we get no calls in a month, we have no charges. The only thing we have is that part-time officer. So if we make no trips to Cedar Falls, there's no cost to us pulling in an animal or anything, except for the part-time officer.
Okay. Questions for Sandy from anybody? Mr. Schmidt?
Mr. Mayor, I've got several questions, and I want to preface this. Number one, I appreciate your comments about working with Cedar Falls and other communities, because I agree completely. But I think that possibly Mr. Lynn's concerns also had to do with the fact that what we're talking about is a part-time person taking over animal control for a city the size of Cedar Falls. I mean, to me, that defies common sense. I mean, it just doesn't seem to compute to me, but that seems to be the proposal. And my comments have nothing to do with Sandy Grieco. I think the world of Sandy Grieco. She and I go to the same church. My granddaughter takes dance lessons from her. I think the world of her. It's got nothing to do with her. But it has to do with the fact that for whatever reason, we've decided that, we wanted to get into this animal control business. And, several things have happened since we made that decision. And I'd just like to ask a couple questions about them. Number one is, in the document, I see that we're talking about 1314 Blackhawk Street being the facility for housing, shelter, care, and disposal of services. How and when was that decided that that building would become that? Earlier tonight, we had a Buildings and Grounds Committee where the subcommittee had to approve the restroom renovations at the library. And I keep asking the question, how and where was it decided this building would be taken out of the arena of being sold to a private individual, put back on the tax rolls? I believe I've heard from our Planning and Zoning Department that this is a highly desirable location for commercial development, and somehow or other we seem to have lost control of it. I don't understand how that happened without council approval. So that's the first question I guess I've got.
Okay.
And I'd like clarification on that.
Steve, I don't know that there was a time or a place that it was decided. The buildings that have been vacated by the street department moving, again, we have not a misunderstanding. I guess I wasn't around when
Right.
those conversations were had. I've never been a privy or a party of a conversation that said that those buildings were going to become sold or were going to become used for economic development or whatever. From Jump Street, from the time I took over, they were always, everything that I heard was going to be used for the police department. It was going to be used early on when we started talking about animal control. We were going to have a place to house that. So there was a discussion about the sign shop across the street. There was a discussion about part of the food bank building. All of those buildings were in play. We took the street department out of play when we made the decision to go with the school system to make that.
Bus barn.
Thank you.
Yes.
Partnership with the school system. So there was never a time that I can remember that it was just a day or a date or a time. It was just kind of through osmosis. That's probably not the answer you're looking for, that became a good option for housing animal control. We couldn't continue to do it. We couldn't continue to keep animal control and house them in those part-time buildings down at Waste Management. That was kind of a given. And I guess, there was a time that is a date certain, whatever that date was that we voted to take over animal control, understanding that it wasn't a unanimous vote, but we did get it. So we were then charged with animal control. And it became my mission to do as good a job as we possibly could to get that done. Part of that had to be an acceptable place, an acceptable facility, an acceptable building to do that in. We ended up in the old garage. I don't have a better answer for you than that. That is how it happened.
Well, and I guess, I'm not sure the question was for you, it was for our legal department, but, the question I had asked several weeks ago is so then what is the purpose of the Buildings and Grounds Subcommittee if we have to approve a restroom renovation at the library, but various departments of the city can decide they're going to take buildings that could be put back. I mean, when you go through this budget, nowhere on there does it address the, $10,000 a year in property taxes we could be getting off that building if when Buck Clark retires, he decides to open up a business there. That I think needs to be factored into this. We started this whole operation with, donated vehicles, donated materials, and you can't run a business continuing with donated facilities.
I agree more with you than that. I agree with that.
Right, and we've got in here a suitably equipped vehicle. I and a few other council members, took a tour of both facilities to compare them, and at the Humane Society, and again, this is the business they're in, so I understand why they have more, but they have, I don't remember, it's 4 or 5 vehicles, and you have to have certain types of vehicles for certain things, and I'm not an animal psychologist, but I know there's, a variety of potential conflicts, particularly between dogs and cats. And so when we talk about, a superior product, I don't see that from the animals' perspective because the facilities are not comparable. The Humane Society has better facilities. I don't know how anybody could argue that. But they were built for animal control. They weren't built as a central garage. They were built for animal control. Your comment about in the last year our calls have gone down.
No, I didn't say our calls have gone down.
I'm sorry, complaint calls, I'm sorry. In the first 5 years I was on the council, I never got one call about animal control. Now, maybe that's because people didn't call the city, they called the Humane Society. But in the last year, I've gotten calls at home, I've gotten emails, I've had conversations at Sunday Mass about no response to calls, feral cats, which I'd never heard of before, dead animals not being picked up. There was a letter to the Courier just the other day about some dead animal that's been laying in the street for, I believe, 7 weeks. So I have a little bit of a concern that I'm not sure who was getting these calls the first 5 years I was on the council, but I never got them, and now I'm getting them, and I think it's because, again, the city is now responsible for this, and I think the city has its hands full doing everything else the city does, and I just think that we're really setting ourselves up for some problems in Cedar Falls, and we've got a part-time person that's going to be responsible for that. Anywhere in here, do we have an issue of what our insurance costs are going to be as far as our volunteers? Because I would think if any of our volunteers, in addition to our 1.475 city employee, has an issue with a animal, that we're going to have a major lawsuit on our hands. Is that included in here?
They all sign a waiver,
So
the
if
city
they
is
get,
not held responsible.
so if they get attacked by a dog, we're off the hook.
As you know,
I'll
anybody can sue anybody.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll sleep well with that one. And then going through this agreement, Sandy, if I could ask you about a couple of items. We've got, Waterloo will immediately euthanize any animal is found to be sick. Don't we only have one person that's authorized to do that?
We do.
So what happens when that person's sick, gone on vacation, sleeping? How does that work?
Then we get a hold of our vet.
Okay, and they're going to be available immediately,
We can, yes.
okay? Stray cats appearing to be feral, may be euthanized immediately. Is that Cedar Falls, is that Waterloo, or is that both?
At Cedar Falls, we do not euthanize feral cats if we have them.
Do we do anything with feral cats? Because I was told, we told
Right
people
now,
we
we
won't.
don't. We are in the process of going after a grant for a catch and release,
Okay.
which means we take them and we get the money to get them either spayed or neutered.
Because that was one of several complaint calls I had, is people called the city about feral cats and we're told, we don't deal with them. You're
We
right.
don't, and because we would rather not right now catch them and euthanize them all.
Well, I understand that, but the citizens going, what am I supposed to do? Is the problem when we hear about things are grand.
And everybody who calls in for that, we do talk to them and we explain to them what not to do, because a lot of them feed them and they shouldn't be.
Okay, well, the people I must have talked to must not have listened to the explanation then. Waterloo shall complete bite reports. Do you have a bite report for the last year now?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We have to have them because we
Okay,
have
can you
to
tell
turn
me
them
what
in.
that is, or give me an idea?
I don't have that with me, but I can get that information to you.
And then on the top of page 4, where we've got hours of service. So again, we're going to have a part-time person providing 168 hours of service during the 8 to 5 days. I'm sorry, 168 hours of service, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then we're going to have normal business hours of 56 hours of service, and we're going to do that with one part-time person.
We have 2 part-time people now, 2 part-time officers,
But I thought we were
and
going
a
to...
full-time.
Okay, but I thought we were going to have one half-time person for Cedar Falls. I mean,
That's what I'm asking, is to hire one that'll mainly work up there.
okay. And then the dead animal pickup, who picks those up?
We do.
And when you say "we," is that your employees, or is that,
That's animal control.
okay, so no other city employees?
If there's a dead deer, we do have, once in a while, a inloader go out because we can't pick it up because it's ready to explode. But other than that, yes, we,
But other than that, we're not borrowing from any other city departments that's either manpower, vehicles? Okay, all right. Thank you.
Further questions? Sandy?
Sandy, I understand Cedar Falls already approved this,
they have, yes,
and the mayor signed off on it.
yes.
Okay. And is there any way that we could get, the council could get at least quarterly reports on how things are going?
We can.
Okay, thank you.
We have to, if this is approved, we send a report to Cedar Falls once a month.
Okay. And just a comment, I mean, if the issue is about part-time workers, I think maybe we should look at hiring some full-time workers with benefits next year.
Okay. Thanks, Pat. Further questions? Motion and a second. It's a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, please.
Who seconded that? I missed the second.
I don't know.
I made the motion. Who seconded?
I think Pat did.
Somebody.
Yeah, I second it.
Sorry, I missed that.
No problems.
Mr. Lind?
No.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
No.
Very good. The motion carries. Items 13, 14, 15, and 16.
Mr. Mayor.
Could we do 4 of them, please? Ms. Cole?
I move we adopt a resolution approving a request for temporary no parking here to drive signs in the 400 blocks of California and Wyoming streets. 14 is a resolution approving a professional services agreement with Structure Architects of Waterloo in the amount not to exceed $12,510 with reimbursable of $500 for design work, contract documents, bidding assistance, submittal reviews, and on-site meetings with construction personnel in conjunction with the Waterloo Public Library restroom renovation project. 15 is a resolution authorizing city clerk to certify approximately $65,098.45 against certain parcels for weed mowing, property junk cleanups, and sidewalk snow removals for the period August 2013 through March 2014. And 16 is a resolution approving an automobile lease agreement with C&S Car Company, Hyundai, Mazda, Subaru of Waterloo for the police department's life skills program at no cost to the city for the period June 24th, 2014 to December 23rd, 2014, and authorize mayor and city clerk to execute said document.
Second.
Council, do you have any questions on 13, 14, 15, or 16? Madam Clerk, please.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 17, please.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Hart?
Move that we table item number 17 so that it appears on our agenda the same date as the site plan amendment, which was read in number 4.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion, a second. I just have one question. Should we, we'll put it on for the next council meeting also. If it goes to, if it doesn't pass at that time, we'll have to put it on for the third reading. Because this will have to be on every night that the other one is. This will be read the night that the other one finally passes. Motion and a second. Roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Very good, thank you. Motion carries. Item 18, let's do that by itself. That may need some explaining, please. If we can do it by itself, please. Mr. Hart.
Move to adopt a resolution approving a request of Johan and Kelly Carl to appeal the City Code Section 7-1-4G curb cuts to allow for a 37 feet by 5 inch driveway approach, which is 13 feet by 5 inch more than the 24-foot maximum allowed for a 2-stall garage located at 444 Reber Avenue. Along with the staff recommends that the request for an appeal be denied by the Planning and Zoning Commission, which was 7-1 vote against it to approve the request.
Second.
Very good. The motion and a second. Do we need explanation, council? Have you looked into this? Have you read it? Are you okay with it, or does anybody need explanation?
I just want to make sure I understood the last part of that motion. I wanted to make sure I didn't misunderstand. So, planning and zoning approved the request 7-1.
That's correct.
Okay, I thought I heard it was,
And staff is recommending denial.
okay. And so, could we have a little overview of that?
Sure. Noel, or Eric, or whoever wants to do it. That's why I wanted to do it by itself, but I think it needs explanation. I don't suppose that Johan and Kelly Carl are here, are you? Oh, you are here, okay, very good. Are you Kelly? Yes. Okay, Kelly.
You want them to go first?
Would you like to explain what you're asking for, please, Kelly? And we'll have staff explanation, but if you could explain to council what you're asking for, please.
Yeah, they passed it.
Yeah,
Just give us your name and your address, please.
yeah, I'm Kelly Carl at 444 Reber Avenue.
Okay.
We built a garage, I think it was 2 summers ago, and we have an existing parking pad, and then to meet code, we had to have that, the garage 10 feet or so from the house. And so we would not like to lose that parking pad, and so therefore extend the approach to the garage, because as it is now, we have the driveway, and then we have one of the last garage stall. And
I went and looked at it, it's.
yeah. And I guess another major reason for this request is with drainage issues. Since we've built the garage, we live on a corner lot, and I would say it's a good 25, 30 yards that the sidewalk becomes a solid 2 to 3 inches of ice in the wintertime. And we have over 25 kids that run up and down our street all the time, and just not wanting people to fall. So we believe that by putting in the extended curb cut, that would allow the water to drain into the street instead of getting stuck on the sidewalks.
Thank you, Kelly. No, why don't you go ahead and.
Noel Anderson, Community Planning Development Director, and there's some drawings going on right now. The one is a petition from their neighbors who support the request. The black and white photo we provided in there, you can see their garage, and then you can see the car parked next to it. So that's the car pad that she's talking about that they want to remain because they use it for driveway purposes. And then the color photo, of course, you can see the new garage they built that it kind of has a driveway in front of part of it and not the other part. Essentially what they're asking for is the city code right now allows you to have a 24-foot maximum driveway stall, and they're asking to go to 37 feet 5 inches. Obviously, the city codes are in place, so staff recommended to go with what the code says. The Planning Commission saw the uniqueness of what their request was, thought that they should be able to continue to use the existing parking pad as well as the new garage area, so the Planning Commission recommended approval.
Clear?
Yeah, would there be any sense or reason to maybe split the difference? Would that?
Probably a question to the applicant if that would work or not.
Anybody happy?
I mean, we had proposed doing a technical, a turnaround, so just putting in a second approach to the further garage entrance. I don't know how much, you'd have a couple feet of green space maybe, but just aesthetically, I don't know how that would look compared to just letting it be one solid.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Jones?
I've looked at this quite a bit, and I do think it is a unique situation, and I think it's proper that it comes to us and we look at them on a case-by-case basis. There's not enough room to turn around, and the more cars we can get off the street and into the driveway, the better.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Welper first, please.
I was overlooked at the situation today as well, and it seems like a real easy fix just to allow this to happen, but I have to tell you, there's literally hundreds of these throughout the city. And if we do that to this one, be prepared, because they're going to be coming. There's many, many who have a pad beside their garage or beside their driveway. So just remember, if you pass this one, more are coming.
Was that Mr. Lynn that asked?
I was simply going to say I was at planning and zoning when they debated this. The problem here is the garage is so close to the street, you can't do anything else but put a driveway to it. So they passed it without objection.
Okay. Further comments?
Except for one, so 7-1.
It was 7-1.
Somebody
Oh,
opposed.
well, I didn't count that one.
Okay, and the motion is to approve the request, which is what Planning and Zoning Commission did, and that's how the request has come to council. So without further questions, Madam Clerk, it's a roll call vote.
Mr. Mayor, if I
I'm
may,
sorry. I'm sorry.
I would just like to say, I wish planning and zoning would follow the code so we wouldn't be put in this situation. They need to follow codes as well. I know that, but they need to follow the code too.
Point well taken. Who, yes, no?
Just one note, I'm not arguing, just well for it all, but the city code is set up so that citizens have an ability to appeal the code as it's written, and that's why I went to the Planning Commission, as it's written that way. So they're just doing what they're supposed to. Sorry.
Could you put that in a letter to Mr. Welper?
I should just
Democratic process.
Bonus, buddy. And you want, oh, never mind. Are there any further comments? Madam Clerk, please, it's a roll call vote.
Oh, no. Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
No.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
No.
Very good.
I do have a question now.
Motion passed, but Mr. Hart has a question.
If we owe, no, I'm fine.
Thank you.
I just had
I
a,
think it's late.
19, 20, and 21, please.
Mr.
Moving
Mayor.
on. Ms. Cole.
Move we adopt a resolution approving a one-year farm lease agreement with Willard Frost to farm approximately 17.4 acres of land generally located around the Northeast Industrial Park plat at $92 per acre for a total yearly payment of $1,600.80, and authorize mayor and city clerk to execute said document. 20 is a resolution approving award of contract to Advanced Environmental of Waterloo, Iowa in the amount of $8,888 and approving the contract bonds and certificate of insurance in conjunction with the asbestos abatement services for the following properties: 3137 Independence Avenue, 2375 Independence Avenue, 4012 Leversea Road, and 421 Almond Street, and authorize mayor and city clerk to execute said documents. And 21 is a resolution approving award of contract to Rick Leff's Excavating Limited of Anamosa in the amount of $6,583,880 and approving the contract bonds and certificate of insurance in conjunction with the FY 2014 Stormwater Lift Station. That would be Hollywood, Cedar Bend, and Fletcher, contract number 836, and authorize mayor and city clerk to execute said documents.
second.
Council, do you have any questions regarding 19, 20, or 21?
Mr. Mayor, just real quickly on,
Jones.
on number 19, did we increase this value? I know over the last couple of years there were value increases. Did this one get one?
I don't know. No, you?
Noel Anderson, Community Planning and Development Director. This is the same as last year, exactly. This is one of the ones that we put out for bid and no one else bid on it, not even Mr. Frost at that time. So we were willing to go back and recommend approval of what he leased it for last year, at least to get some production out of the land.
Thank you.
Roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Very good, the motion carries. The last two resolutions, please, 22
Mayor.
and 23. Mr. Morrissey.
I'd like to make a motion approving change order number 1 for a net decrease of $31,295 for work performed by Stickford Construction Corporation of Hudson, Iowa for the fiscal year 2013 Sans Souci Wing Dam Repairs, contract number 846, and authorize mayor and city clerk to execute said document. And 23, resolution approving completion of project and recommendation of acceptance of work performed by Stickford Construction Corporation of Hudson, Iowa in the amount of $123,627 for the fiscal year 2013 Sans Souci Wing Dam Repairs, contract number 846, and receive and file 2-year maintenance bond.
Second.
Council, do you have any questions? Madam Clerk, please roll call vote on 22 and 23.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Very good, those motions carry. Item 24, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Hart.
I move that we receive, file, consider, and pass for the second time an ordinance vacating a portion of LaPorte Road, frontage road generally located between Easton and Lorraine Avenues for the request of Howard L. Allen Investments, Inc. to vacate and enter into a development agreement with Howard L. Allen Investments, Inc. to sell and convey for $1 a portion of LaPorte Road, frontage road generally located between Easton Avenue and Lorraine Avenue for the construction of a 3,750 square feet commercial building.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. I'm sorry, it's a roll call vote. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
No.
Sorry, was Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Very good.
Mr.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor.
You started there. Mr. Hart?
Move to suspend the rules.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
could I ask a few questions?
Yes, please.
Um,
I'm sorry, I should have given you the opportunity in the first place, Mr. Morrison.
Thank you. I just, Noel, could you give us the assessed value of the land that Howard Allen Investments is getting here?
Noel Anderson, Community Planning Development Director. I believe it's $8,360.
Okay, and I just, what percentage, do we have any idea of the amount of local contractors and businesses he makes use of or will be making use of in this project? Any idea?
I was just talking with Craig Clark. Obviously, Mr. Allen has built several commercial buildings, including the former Bonanza site for the Hurricane Grill strip mall. He built the Poncheros strip mall and Noodles, and he also built the mini one on Flamang that has the Starbucks in it. So he's had a number of commercial projects. We believe he pretty much uses all local contractors. Craig thought that Huff Construction would be building this current building on LaPorte Road, which I did find out the tenant, it would be an expansion of the, I believe it's Liberty car sales place across the street. It would be an expansion of their lot in another building for them.
Okay. And is anybody, do you know if anybody from Howard Allen Investments is here?
I don't see anybody. I know Mr. Allen was out of town tonight and was going to try to get someone here, but I didn't see anyone come in.
And Mr. Mayor, one of the things that I'd like to see is that when the city is giving land away for $1, it'd be nice to have the people that are being given that from the taxpayers, that property, which is the voters, the taxpayers of Waterloo, to hear that person speak at the city council. So I would just make a request that in the future, if this is offered to somebody, that they're here to, so that we can ask them personally questions, I mean, face-to-face some questions.
Mr. Morrissey, I won't speak for Mr. Anderson, but I would say that we, in the future, going forward, when we have development agreements or when we have deals like this, we will ask the developer to appear. It hasn't been the practice in the past, so it's not surprising that they're not here, but we will try to have that done in the future. And I would just like to say something about your comment that when we give away property for $1. I mean, it's a common misconception that we just go around giving away property for $1. And we don't just give away property for $1. We enter into development agreements for property so that we get a payback on that money. We don't just give away property for $1 without receiving tax base, some degree of employment, some degree of benefit to the city for that. So, but a point well taken. Thank you. Are there further comments? Madam Clerk, it's a roll call vote. This is a motion to suspend the rules.
Mr. Lind?
No.
Mr. Morrissey?
No.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
No.
Okay, the motion fails. We'll have the third reading in 2 weeks on item
Mr.
24.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Morrissey, yeah.
could we request that Mr. Allen have somebody, if not himself,
Yeah,
here?
I'm sure that will happen. And I'm sure would have been here tonight if we'd have notified him in time. But yes, he will be here, Mr. Morrissey.
Mr. Mayor.
25, Mr. Schmidt.
25, I'd like to make a motion to instruct the Director of Safety Services to prepare specifications, bid document, et cetera, for the fiscal year 2015 ammunition needs.
I think we can take several of those if you'd like, Mr. Schmidt, if you'd like to combine. I think 25, 26, 27, 28 are all the same hearing dates, et cetera, if you
Okay.
want to try to combine all of those.
26 is a motion to instruct the building official, maintenance administrator to prepare specifications, form of contract, et cetera, for the bid for janitorial services. 27 is instructing the building official to prepare plans for Waterloo Public Library restroom renovation.
And 28 is instructing the airport director to prepare same for the purchase of snow removal equipment at the Waterloo Regional Airport.
Second. Very good. Are there comments or questions on either 25, 6, 7, or 8?
Mr. Mayor, if I
Yes, sir.
could, just as a follow-up to our previous conversation, and I don't know that Mr. Wendling is necessarily the right person to ask, but I've been asking this question for a little while, and I really would just like some clarification. Can you tell me what is the purpose of the Buildings and Grounds Subcommittee? That in this instance, previously, we had to talk about this restroom renovation at the library, but then various departments within the city are laying claim to buildings that I would think city council would have to say, okay, you're the one that gets this, or no, you don't, we're going to sell it to somebody else. Can you tell me how that works? And I don't mean to catch you off guard, Chris,
Actually,
so-
it's a perfect question for Mr. Wendland, because he did research for me just a couple of weeks ago on the role of council commissions, so I'm glad you did.
Perfect.
Chris Wendland, City Attorney's Office. So glad the mayor made it look like I should know what I'm talking about.
You didn't bring your notes, right?
All right. As I recall from a few weeks back.
I can answer it if you can't, so go ahead.
You may have to. The City Code of Ordinances does not specify what any of the particular committees of the council do. It just provides for their existence. So the council pretty much decides what each committee's charter is going to be. I don't recall that there is a document that clearly outlines what those are. I'm sure it would have been provided to you if there was. Mr. Mayor, how do I need to be supplemented on that answer?
Well, I think the only,
I'm going to pull it up real
it's
quick.
not an error in statement, Chris, but Susie, the clerk's going to pull it up. It's actually, it's the mayor that's charged with the responsibility of the committees to decide what they do or don't do, or whether they exist or don't exist per our ordinance. So it's pretty nebulous. It was quite surprising to me.
So following along that line of question, and again, I'm just wanting a learning opportunity here, for the council to approve, a library renovation, so the council has to approve this, but then the council doesn't have to approve the abdication of a probably $100,000 plus building at either the mayor's whim or some department head's whim, because they got there first. We've talked about the
Well, there's
police
been
department
I'm sorry.
getting the building across the street, when somebody else wants that first, and it's like, well, who gets to referee this conversation? And so, yeah, I mean, this is very much a learning opportunity for me.
Okay. And it will, when Susie finds it, but,
Says the following shall be the standing committees of the city council, which shall be so named, and have such functions as the mayor may designate. The mayor designates their function, and that include, there's actually not one called a building and ground, well, yeah, public building and grounds, there it is, so.
Okay, but having said that, then I ask the question, but in this instance with the restroom, apparently the entire council needs to vote on doing something with the restroom at the library. But then we don't have a say in what happens to the former
This would be required per our purchasing policy, because we would enter into a contract. So this is covered by a policy that the city's adopted. Use of a building, at this point, we don't have a policy that states that there's any.
And this one is different, Steve, because we have to approve going out for a bid. We have a hearing, we go out to bids, we open bids, rather than just using a building. I think that's a pretty clear distinction in this particular situation.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Morrissey.
Craig, on 26, I am just questioning whether it might be better for the city to look at if ABM is maybe charging us too much, and it might be better if that service is provided by the city. Is there any way you could do a cost comparison of where they're at and where it would be if our public employees took care of that?
Craig Clark, building official. Yes, that's something that we talked before the meeting, and I'll look into and get to the council before this comes out for the public hearing and all that kind of stuff. So it's something I can definitely look into. I know it's been quite a few years that we've been under contract for janitorial service. I can't remember if it's 10 or 12, but it's right in that range. So I'll do some legwork and figure out a cost.
Thank you.
In other words, hire our own instead of bidding it out.
Correct.
Okay. Further questions on 25-6 or, I'm sorry, is it?
Yeah, 25, 26, 27, 28. Correct. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion then to receive and file specifications, bid document, and form of contract with a new word invented there. Yes, on all four of those
That one more
items.
time?
Second. Yes, I can't.
Okay, that's on 25, 26, 27, 28.
Yes, sir.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to adopt a resolution preliminarily approving specifications, bid document, and form of contract, et cetera, for those four items.
Second. It's a roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrison?
Yes.
Very good. The motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to adopt a resolution and setting the date of bid opening as July 10th, 2014, and the public hearing is July 14th, 2014 for those four items, and instruct the city clerk to publish notice of specifications, bid document, et cetera, and taking of bids.
Second.
Madam Clerk, it's a roll call.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrison?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 29, please.
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Cole.
I move we adopt, I move we approve payment to the Greater Cedar Valley Alliance
For their allowance.
for their allowance in the amount of $24,250 for the base payment previously approved in the amount of $14,250, plus two additional incentive quarterly payments in the amount of $5,000 each.
Second.
Council, do you have any questions regarding this item? Madam Clerk? I'm sorry, it's a voice vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. That motion carries. Thank you. Council, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for sticking with us. That's the end of our regularly scheduled city business tonight. It's time for oral comments. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the mayor or council at this time, please do so. Come forward and give us your name and address.
Jim Chapman, 224 Birch. I got more of a concern than anything. The last few weeks, we've had about 5 break-ins in our neighborhood. And if I remember right, when we were going through the nuisance ordinance, we do not have a right to stop people when they're walking up, down the street at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, or in the alleys or that. We don't have a right to question them, what they're doing out at that time of night. A house got broke into, 3 houses from me the other night. The gentleman was sleeping. They woke him up, and he got up and they ran out the back door. And I asked him, I said, well, were they adults or kids or what? And he said, well, he thought they were teenagers. Well, the other night I can't sleep, so I'm sitting out on the porch and I'm watching. You can't believe the young people that are walking the street at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And that's a big concern, because I did pull my protection over a little bit closer, because I am going to protect my wife and my property, and I don't care who it is. And I got a big fear of some teenager, 12 or 14, 15, whatever, coming in the house and getting shot. I get a big concern about that. I thought we had a curfew in this town, do we? Well, they're out walking. I mean, they're all over. I mean, so I guess people, I don't know where they...
Thanks, Jim. We've had that conversation, and I know Director Trelka...
I got a big fear something's
Yeah.
going to happen.
And we are very aware of the increase in the break-ins in that neighborhood.
Okay,
And
thank you.
are directing patrols accordingly. Thank you. Anyone else tonight?
David Dryer, 3145 West 4th Street. I'm sorry I forgot to call in before 4 o'clock so I could have more than 3 minutes. I'm questioning, looking over the things and stuff that's come up. What's the difference between item 3 and 17 and 14 and 27? It seems to me like the same type of situation was put on the docket twice, so you could deceive, vote for or against. I'm not understanding it. And the other thing that I see on here is that I thought we didn't own the Sportsplex, yet we are putting it on the city's insurance policy. We're not supposed to be able to take control or ownership of it, or not control, but ownership of it for 8 years. But yet I hear that we are now increasing our insurance costs for the city by X% because of the Sportsplex. Thank you.
Thanks, David. We're not trying to deceive anyone, ladies and gentlemen. There's just an awful lot of procedure that we have in a lot of our items that have to be read either multiple times in different ways or different ways and so forth. So I would encourage anybody that doesn't understand, this is really not the proper setting to try to explain everything that we do. But as Mr. Dreyer just stated, he has some questions. I would really encourage you to come down to the clerk's office, come down to Planning and Zoning tomorrow, Mr. Dreyer, and we'll explain to you why 3 and 17 were on there. I had the same question myself today. Why do we have to have 17? We have 3. There is a difference, and I'm not sure about the other one, but there are reasons for those. We'd be glad to explain them to you. It's better to do it when we got all the documentation in front of us and we can sort it out. I'll be glad to. I'd be glad to go over that also.
Forrest Dillaboo, 1725 Huntington Road. Last week, I brought an issue to you about sidewalks that were put in and then torn out for the reconstruction of Downing Avenue.
Yes.
I would like to know if you plan on talking about that, or going to have a work session, or if you're going to do anything about it. People ask me all the time, do they ever call you and talk to you about what you bring up? And I said, occasionally, but not very often. And that's my true feelings. But I would like to see something done about it. That was a waste of city money, taxpayer money on Downing Avenue. Put it in and tear it out.
Yeah, Forrest, and it's my fault I didn't get back to you. I had a very busy week. No excuse at all. I didn't do it. I told you I would. I don't know that you've ever called me and I haven't returned your call.
I didn't say calls. I said when I speak here.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. I'll get back with you, Forrest, on that. Eric Thorson, could you make a note of that, please, to get back? I forgot to last year. I failed to do it last week. Is there anyone else?
Motion to receive and file oral comments and adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.